What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, and a happy transfer deadline day to everyone out there. And well, I say transfer deadline day. Spurs fans usually call it a Friday, but today there is quite a lot going on, to be honest. So we'll get into all the transfer dealings in a minute. But just before we get into that, let's give a few predictions. How many are we expecting in and out today?
Man, the news is changing every single second. It's hard to keep up with this club at the moment. I think we're going to get... I predicted last week that we're only going to get one in because I thought we have too much to do. But it seems things are moving very quickly. But, you know, you're just hearing mixed things. Players are getting bids, but they're getting rejected or asking for too much. I'm going to predict two.
Two in. How many
Two
out?
In. And
well,
we're going to predict 5 out.
Assume that Tanganga and Reguilon are done. So deals above that for players like Hojbjerg, Sanchez, Eric Dyer. Do you think we get Sanchez or Dyer out today?
I think one of them will go. It sounds like Dyer's staying, to be honest. But I think Sanchez is going. I'm really hoping we'll find a club for him. So I'm going to predict another 4 out. Lloris's contract being cancelled as well, I reckon.
Is that included in the 4?
Yeah. I reckon Hojbjerg moves. I reckon Sanchez moves. And I can't even keep up with who's still around in the squad at the moment. Who else is there?
Well, that's it, really.
And then we bring 2 in, and we've already let go of a couple yesterday.
I do think, though, like with Hugo Lloris, that if it is going to be a cancellation of the contract, I think that we won't hear about that till maybe tomorrow.
But it'll have to happen today if we want to move.
Well, isn't it? If we cancel his contract, isn't he free to join anyone?
Not if he cancels his contract after the window closes.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I see. So it has to be done.
He'll have to wait till January.
So it has to be done today. There were rumours that Chelsea were circling around, but they did sign another keeper. In terms of anyone else that you're thinking of that can move, I mean, potentially Harvey White.
Yeah, I reckon. Hopefully, he also leaves. I reckon there's a good chance.
And apart from that, there's no one really else. Brian Hill potentially.
Yeah, we've heard rumours Brian Hill going out on loan. I think maybe we're waiting for Brennan Johnson to be signed and sealed before we give the green light for Brian Hill to leave.
Well, look, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the transfer window and see where we're at 20-1 on transfer deadline day. The window does slam shut at 11 p.m. tonight. And let's start off with a few done deals, starting off with Japhet Tanganga. Fabrizio Romano says that Augsburg are set to sign Japhet Tanganga deal. Here we go. 1 year loan plus a buy option clause. Medical this morning and then waiting for documents to be signed. Tottenham cautious until the deal's signed, but verbal agreement done. Tanganga undergoes medical test as Augsburg player this morning. Loan deal with an option to buy 6 million is the buy option. And here we go, confirmed. And Charlie Eccleshare says that Tanganga's loan plus an option would become an obligation if certain terms are met. I mean, 6 million euros, that does seem a bit low, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm assuming hopefully that's in addition to a loan fee potentially. I don't know what that loan fee would be. But yeah, it is pretty low. But then again, I mean, he also hasn't played much, and so his stock has fallen dramatically, unfortunately for him. It was confirmed with other reports as well. There was definitely another offer from Lyon on the table, and he has decided to go to Augsburg ahead of a Lyon move, which is quite surprising because you would have thought Lyon would be a bit more of an attractive proposition for someone like Tanganga, a big club in France.
Playing time, I guess.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking Augsburg, I'm going to be guaranteed more playing time, and maybe Lyon would see it as more of a loan, whereas Augsburg see it as more of a long-term playing for them. So look, I think it's a good move for him. Hopefully he can get that permanent move and he can really restart his career because it's really stagnated badly. And I think look, it's his first loan, isn't it? He hasn't been on loan before. Nope. So look, I'm going to keep an eye on him, see how he does, but I don't expect him to come back, to be honest, even though it's only a loan.
Yeah, I completely agree. Next up, let's talk about Sergio Reguilon. We brought you the Here We Go yesterday. David Ornstein just confirming everything this morning, saying Reguilon has signed Man United contract and final paperwork being completed before Tottenham exit. Confirmed exits on a season-long loan, no fee or buy option, and a break clause in January. Full wage covered by Manchester United. I mean, we're just bending over backwards to help Man United at this point.
Yeah, no fee at all. Not even like give us 500k or something. Like nothing. not even a single
Not
penny.
Even a Fraser Campbell on loan or anything.
Come on, you can't help us out. I think this is from Tottenham's point of view. Like, it's pretty staggering how we've pretty much bowed to every condition that Man United are demanding. The only reason I can see that is that we're that desperate to get him out the squad and make room that we're willing to accept all these conditions. But the problem is we could be back here in January and he could be back in the squad, and then and then you're in the same position you are now, either leaving him out or trying to find another loan deal. So for me, if you're going to be in the same position in January, is it really worth just 6 months of the wages to potentially help out Man United, and maybe they get a few more wins because they got Reguilon in the team rather than not in the team? So I don't know. I mean, I'm a bit mixed on this. I'm not like angry about it because I understand the need to get him out and understand the need to move on players, but I mean, it's very short term. It's very like it's not. It feels like a whole season. I would be more on board with it. But the fact that there's the potentially 6 month break clause, and we could be back here in January in the same boat, just having helped out in Man United for 6 months, it's just a bit strange.
Unless he kind of does impress in this loan spell at Manchester United and can add a bit of a value onto him, because at the moment he just holds no value at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe people will be more interested if he does play well at Man United and he can put him in the shop window a bit. So maybe the Spurs are thinking like that as well. I just wish it wasn't Man United. I wish it was another club he was going to, essentially, because it's a bit annoying. Because our ambitions should be to be competing with Man United and trying to finish above them. As much as we say it's realistic or not, that should be our ambition. So to give them a player and then that could potentially help them finish above us is a bit annoying.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg now. This is an interesting one. Simon Jones saying that Fulham have made a £25 million offer for the Tottenham midfielder. Hojbjerg is expected to leave Spurs before the transfer window closes on Friday and has also had offers from Atletico Madrid and Galatasaray. However, Nazar Kinsella says that Fulham are struggling to convince Tottenham midfielder Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg to join them. Hojbjerg believes he should be a regular starter at the world's biggest clubs, so the move does not appeal to him. So he doesn't seem up for going to Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, he's played for Bayern Munich before, and he signed for Tottenham under Jose Mourinho, thinking it was after being at Southampton. He's probably thinking at that point, no, he's joined like a big club and he's going to go on to like bigger and better things. I mean, and he's kind of had a good time at Tottenham. I wouldn't say he's had a bad time at Tottenham. I think he's been a pretty good player, but I don't think obviously he's been outstanding, or maybe hasn't been. I think he was hoping to be one of the best defensive mids in the league when he came. Hasn't quite kind of hit those heights. I kind of feel like he is kind of Fulham level in terms of like being their best player kind of thing. Maybe he could probably be a top 6 player, but I don't think he could be like a star in a top 6 team, like a nailed on. This guy is your best centre mid kind of top 6 player. He can be probably a squad player for a top 6 team, but I think he could be a nailed on like star at like a Fulham kind of team. But he probably sees himself as a higher level than that, and I understand it because he has been decent at Spurs, and he probably feels like his performances are not warranted a drop down of such a dramatic club like Fulham. He probably feels like a Man United should be interested and should be signing him or something, or like Atletico Madrid who are trying to get the deal done still. So. But maybe once it gets nearer the deadline, maybe if he feels like there's no other club going in for him, does he either back himself to get into the Spurs team, or does he just bite the bullet and go to Fulham?
I think Fulham is below. Maybe not below him, but I think he can get a better club than Fulham. I really do. We've talked about a team like Atletico Madrid who have been after him all summer. I genuinely believe he's been a good servant to Spurs, and he's been good for Spurs. He's probably been one of the most consistent performers for Spurs since he's joined. He's a very good player, Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. I just don't think he suits what Spurs are trying to do anymore. I think when we had the Contes and Jose Mourinho's, I think he suited us down to a T. And I think he's definitely a Europa League level player. So I think Fulham is too much of a step down for him. I think he can get a bigger and a better club, and I think he deserves a bigger and a better club. And also, don't underestimate the value of availability as well. This guy is always available, hardly ever misses a game through injury or anything like that. So I think Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg, I think he's right to not go to a club like Fulham, and I think that he should be pushing for Spurs to do a deal with Atletico Madrid, because I think that would be a brilliant deal for him, and I think he would fit in there like he'd fit in there really well, and I think he'll do well there too.
I think he would fit in Atletico. I think he'd be a good player for them. I don't think he's a player who improves them. I just think he's a player who can fit, kind of suit what they try to do. I do think potentially they have better players. I think when I say he's Fulham level, Fulham last season finished I think in 9th position, and they've had difficult time this summer. But if they have ambitions of improving, they have ambitions of fighting for Europa League. That is where Hojbjerg, I see him being that's where he's a really strong player. They just had João Paulinho, who's an exceptional defensive midfielder, so they want a player who's similar quality to him, and I think Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg represents a good solution for them to replace him. But obviously Fulham are in a bit of trouble at the moment, so there is a possibility they could be in a relegation battle this season. Hojbjerg is probably looking at that situation thinking, I don't see them improving on last season's 9th place or 10th place finish, and do I really want to be going from a club who could potentially be battling for the European place like Spurs and going to a team who could potentially be in a relegation battle, and that could really be a detriment to his career as well. So I understand that he's not wanting to go there, but if the Atletico Madrid doesn't materialise, if that move doesn't materialise, what does he do? Because he's clearly not really... We're shopping him around everywhere, trying to loan him out United, trying to go Fulham, Galatasaray. So we clearly don't really want him. I guess it's up to him, how he sees the next year.
If you're Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg and you've got 2 offers on the table, one of Fulham and one of Galatasaray, who are you going to?
Fulham, 100%. Why wouldn't it be Fulham?
I mean, Galatasaray, they're building an all right team there in the Champions League. I don't know.
Turkey, Fulham, you want to go out to Turkey?
You want to battle relegation?
You might not be battling relegation though. You might if you can help improve them and get them back into mid-table. But then again, it is mid-table. But then again, it's still in the Premier League. But the Premier League can be a source of all kind of moves. Look at João Paulinho. He's just had a great year at Fulham, and bam, he's off to Bayern Munich. Look at Matthias Nunes, one good year at Wolves, bam, he's off to Man City. So I think one good year at Galatasaray doesn't earn you a move like that.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair enough. But I think the levels of Hojbjerg, I don't think come close to João Paulinho or even Matthias Nunes either. So I think if Hojbjerg goes to Fulham, I don't think even with what he shows, he's going to get a much bigger move than these players are going to get. I think maybe he gets a Europa League team or something like that, and I think that's what he deserves, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Davinson Sanchez. Tom Colomose says that Nottingham Forest were attempting to sign Davinson Sanchez, but as of yesterday, he did not want to leave Tottenham. However, L'Equipe are saying that Rennes have increased their offer for Tottenham Hotspur centre-back Davinson Sanchez from 9 to 12 million. Sanchez does want to leave Tottenham and join Rennes after the club made a 12 million bid for him, but Sebastian Dennis says that Davinson Sanchez will not be signing for Rennes as the 15 million asking price for Tottenham was deemed too high, and the original bid from Rennes was rejected.
Conflicting reports at the moment when it comes to L'Equipe and the other report there. I really hope that I just can't imagine that Spurs would reject a 12 million bid for Sanchez. I think that is ludicrous if that is the case. And if we're actually holding out for 15 million and willing to reject anything lower than that, I just think that is sabotage. That is madness. I can't think of how you can operate like that when we want him out the door. He's not good enough for what we want. You've got a fairly decent offer for the circumstances. You've got an opportunity to get him out. He wants to go, apparently. You can maybe use that money to go towards the centre-back replacement, and we're holding out 15 million and we're risking keeping him for beyond the window. I just, it infuriates me if that's the case. Absolutely infuriates me. I just hope to God that 12 million bid is real and that them pulling out the race isn't real. just yet.
Yeah, I guess this is one that we're going to have to wait for the next few hours. But Paul O'Keefe did say that any move regarding a centre-back coming in does heavily rely on either Sanchez or Eric Dyer leaving today. So we'll have to see what happens with that one. But let's talk about the big news of today, and that is regarding Brennan Johnson. Quite a lot of updates to talk about. Fabrizio Romano says that negotiations between Tottenham and Forest for Brennan Johnson are advancing. Understand the deal now getting closer. No agreement in place yet, but contacts ongoing to make it happen later today. Brennan's green light to the move also there. Gary Jacobs says that Johnson close to a 40 million plus move to Tottenham from Nottingham Forest. Matt Law says that Tottenham are now very close to agreeing a deal worth £50 million, including bonuses for Brennan Johnson. Johnson will head to London for a medical soon. Paul O'Keefe says that talks progressing for Nottingham Forest forward Brennan Johnson. The two clubs are now closer on a fee, but not there yet. Tottenham confident of a deal being agreed for an initial amount just under £40 million. Daniel Taylor from The Athletic says that Daniel Levy, the Spurs chairman, has been haggling with Marinakis, the Forest owner, over Brennan Johnson's transfer. However, talks have now advanced and the two clubs are close to agreeing a financial package that could ultimately be worth in the region of £50 million. Brentford's long-term admirers of Johnson have made one last push for the Wales international, but financially it's out of their reach and they have reluctantly had to accept Spurs are a bigger club with more appeal. And Sammy Mockbell says that Tottenham and Nottingham Forest agree a deal in principle for Brennan Johnson worth £45 million, now agreeing terms of bonus payments. So all the news coming out today regarding Brennan Johnson to Tottenham all seem very positive.
Yep, seems as though this one is in its final stages. I was watching Sky Sports News and they did show shots of him arriving at Forest for first team training, but he was definitely glued to his phone. You could definitely see that waiting for updates. So I definitely think this is this, and also Forest looks like they're spending the money as well. They've got Sangare through the door from PSV as well. So, and that's a substantial outlay. They paid about 35 million for him. So they're clearly already spending the Brennan Johnson money. So this one seems to be a goer. But apparently they're looking at bringing Batshuayi in to replace him. So they're already lining up replacements for Brennan. And I, for one, am excited. I know it's gained a mixed reaction. Some people even calling it a disgrace and some like that. But for me, I think he's an exciting young prospect, one of the fastest players in the Premier League. Clearly, there's more to his game than just pace as well, because he's getting goal contributions. He got a bucket load in the Championship. He got a fairly decent return in the Premier League last season for a 21-year-old as well. He's still only 22, plays regularly for his national side, gives us cover on the right, cover on the centre. Maybe down the line, you never know. Maybe he can be adjusted to play on the left as well and cut inside. I wouldn't rule that out completely, although that's not a position that he plays too much. But I think he gives us options. It's something that Ange, I believe, can mold. A player who can really, Ange can take under his wing and get him get him to play his style. I think he gives us a different option on the right hand side. He'll be the only player we have in the squad, a winger who really enjoys going around the outside and getting to the byline, rather than trying to shoehorn Man or Solomon in that role. Just doesn't seem completely comfortable playing on the right hand side. And I just think that he can really help add goals to our forward line, because we've already seen what he can do in the Premier League. And if he can get 8 goals for a Forest side that are playing counter-attacking football and very rarely getting chances, imagine playing in a team who are going to be regularly creating chances for him. And I think as well, he allows us more options in the transition when we do play maybe teams who are going to dominate the ball a bit and we have to play more on the counter-attack. He has that lightning pace to be able to play that kind of football, whereas we saw in the opening games occasionally Kulusevski, when he was asked, when he was had a few occasions where he's trying to burst into the space, but he didn't have the kind of pace to get away from his defender, whereas Brennan Johnson will on those occasions. So I'm not saying he definitely comes in as a certain starter over Kulu, but I definitely think he provides really good competition and he provides different options. And for me, I think it's a really exciting deal. And is it an overpayment? Probably, but for me, it's not my money. If Tottenham are prepared to pay for it, I think we're getting a good player. And I think as well, in a couple years' time, he could be worth more than 50 million.
Look, at the end of the day, this is the current market we're in. Cole Palmer, who's had, 3 Premier League starts or something, is going for £45 million. Brennan Johnson, who had a really good first year in the league last year, 8 goals.
Anthony Gordon went for 50 million.
And, you know what I mean? And all these players.
He's shown a lot more than Anthony Gordon.
There's a lot of overpayment in this market going on. And I think, I'm not worried about the price tags of these players. I don't care about the price tags of these players. All I care about is if we bring in players that Ange Postecoglou wants. And I think it's clear for everyone to see that Ange really does want Brennan Johnson within the squad. And that's enough for me, to be honest. And I really like him. Every time I watch him play, and I'm impressed with Brennan Johnson, his direct style, very fast play. I think he clocked up the second highest speed last season behind Kyle Walker. And I think it's pace that we're missing in the front line as well. And I believe that Ange can also mold him in a way that he wants to, in terms of being able to consistently take on his man and become a bit of a menace on that right hand side of the attack. And it's something that we're missing a bit with Kulusevski at the moment. So I think it's good variation with him and Kulusevski on the right. I think he can play in the middle as well if Richarlison's not firing. So I think it's a great deal. I really do. I'm a big fan of Brennan Johnson, and let's hope we can wrap this deal up today.
Like Anthony Gordon had 5 Premier League goals before going for 50 million to Newcastle, and people were praising that deal. So is this not a better deal than that?
I think it's a similar deal. I think it is, but
I think he's shown a lot more than Gordon.
I wouldn't say a lot more. I think he has shown more, but I wouldn't say a lot more.
I would say a lot more. Gordon, I can't see Gordon getting the goals and assists in the Championship that Johnson did. I can't see that.
I mean, you're talking about what? Gordon got 5 goals in the Premier League last year?
Last season, I think he got 3.
3?
Because I don't think he scored for Newcastle last season.
Did he not get 1 for Newcastle?
Because he signed in January.
And he's already got 1 or 2 this season?
He got 1 this
already.
season, and the season before that, he got 5 for Everton. I think 3 of them were deflected.
I think it's I think it's
I'm not saying he's a bad player.
I think he's a better player than Anthony Gordon, but I wouldn't say they're worlds apart. I think they're in the same boat.
I wouldn't say they're worlds apart. I'm just saying at the point of spending 50 million on a player, surely Johnson represents better value than Gordon at that point.
I think he does, yeah, but not by that much. But look, I think Brennan Johnson is a very, very good player. I think he'll be a very good servant to the club. His attitude as well. Everyone talks about how spot on his attitude is. I mean, Cooper's spoken about it a lot of times. And also, you got to look at the English quota as well, which we're desperate for. We keep talking about
homegrown, because he's Welsh.
Homegrown quota, should I say, because you know, it might not be an urgent matter for us this season, but when you're looking at the future and how we're going to plan this squad for future seasons, it's going to stand us in massively good stead to bring in homegrown players now. And I think that's why we're looking at the likes of Conor Gallagher and Lloyd Kelly and Brennan Johnson to bring in now, because we're going to be desperate for these kind of players in a year or two's time. So I think it's a very good deal for Tottenham Hotspur. But let's move on and talk about Lloyd Kelly, the Bournemouth centre-back. The Athletic says that Bournemouth have rejected a £20 million bid for Lloyd Kelly from Tottenham. Not met the valuation. Long-standing interest, which remains active, not being able to replace another is a key factor in the situation for Bournemouth. However, Gary Jacobs says that Tottenham are ready to go back with improved bid for Lloyd Kelly. And Paul O'Keefe, as I mentioned before, saying a move for a new centre-back is very much dependent on the sale of either Sanchez or Eric Dyer for Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, are we really going to spend over 20 million on Lloyd Kelly?
Well, look, I've been doing a bit more research into him from yesterday, and he definitely seems a player who all his managers that he's played under really value and really believe is going to be a very good centre back. He is 24 now, so he's not exactly a youngster, but he is for a centre back. It's not exactly old either. He's still I wouldn't say it's young, but it's not. But it's 24 is pretty young for to be a top Premier League centre back, I would say. And he's got glowing reports from a lot of his different managers. Apparently, he was captain for a while under Scott Parker before Gary O'Neill stripped of him of the captaincy. Eddie Howe apparently was a big fan of his when he was manager at Bournemouth as well. So I think when you're looking at young English centre-backs who like to have the play the ball on the ground and who are fast as well and have the good physical profile. In terms of the profile, I think it fits, but It's whether that quality within that profile is what we need, and that's the big question mark. Obviously, I don't think he's really pulled up any trees over the last couple of seasons at Bournemouth from what I've seen, and he hasn't really been someone who's been talked about, as someone who's been in and around the England squad or anything like that. But then maybe that's because he plays for Bournemouth, and maybe that's what's holding him back. I've been looking at some of his stats when you compare him in the chat when he was in the Championship for Bournemouth compared to the Premier League, and obviously it's difficult to compare. But when he was in the Championship, he had like some of the highest stats when it comes to progressive passes, when it comes to successful carries as well. He was a lot more confident on those stats. Now, once he's moved to the Premier League, those stats have decreased quite significantly. When going into a league where they've been the underdogs in most games, it's been a lot more difficult for him. And clearly, he has some sort of leadership ability when you're talking about a player who's been captain at such a young age for Bournemouth at a number of occasions as well. And could he provide good cover for Van de Ven as a centre back? And you got good cover on those situations. So I wouldn't say the deal completely makes sense, but I kind of like understand where they're coming from. I still think like it's very uninspiring, and it's still something like I would prefer a more established name if we were to come in at centre back. But at the end of the day, we are looking for a backup at this point, backup centre backs to improve on the quality on Sanchez and Dyer. And if you're asking me would I rather him than Sanchez and Dyer, I probably would. But is that enough of an excuse to go and drop over 20 million on him? You can make your arguments either way. But if you're asking me, would I rather at the end of the window be sat here with Sanchez or Dyer as our backup centre backs, or be sat here with Lloyd Kelly? I'd probably rather be sat here with Lloyd Kelly.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think he's a player that fits what Ange wants to do in terms of his style of play, 100%. But like when you're looking at the money that you're going to spend on him, and maybe different targets from around the clubs, I know the player I'm about to mention isn't English, but he's under 21, so he wouldn't have to be counted in the squad. But why not go for someone like Bella Kotchap?
Yeah,
like, someone like Bella Kotchap would represent so much better value. You could probably get them for a similar price. And I think he's shown so much more than what Lloyd Kelly has shown. And I think Lloyd Kelly is just so uninspiring. And when you're talking about backups, you want backups that can come in and you're going to have confidence in what they're going to do on a football pitch. I don't think many Spurs fans have confidence that Lloyd Kelly can probably step in for a Mickey Van de Ven and the quality doesn't drop down too much. I think if a Bella Kotchap comes in and one of the centre-backs gets injured, I think Bella Kotchap can probably play on the right or the left as well. And I think that, the quality will drop from Romero Van de Ven, but I don't think it will drop as much as maybe a Lloyd Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair, what you have to say is like we have seen examples, for example, Arsenal spending big money on players who people maybe have raised their eyebrows at. 50 million for Ben White, big money on Ramsdale, and they've turned out to be very good signings. And so I think we just have to have a bit of trust that if they're going for big, if they're really confident on making the signing. It's clear that this is a signing that I think is not one that they've been earmarked for a while. It's something that's probably propped up in the last few days of the window when they're a bit desperate to bring it homegrown.
The Athletic are saying we've got a long-standing interest in Lloyd Kelly.
Yeah, well, maybe we've been keeping an eye on him, but it's not one that we've been like looking to bring in since the start of the window, is it? It's definitely one that's we've only been really eyeing to sign in the last days of the window. So I don't believe he's like our first choice. I believe we probably have other targets, but I think we have to have a bit of trust if they've identified him as a profile centre-back, and we need homegrown players as well. And that under Postecoglou, maybe he can up his level and maybe he can be a bit more of a confident centre-back when he's playing in a team who dominate the ball rather than one who's always on the back foot. Then hopefully these situations can, and also leading to that, hopefully we're not going to have to rely on him that much, but we'll have to wait and see what injuries providing. But hopefully we can have a bit more confidence under Ange that he can be a centre-back that can at least provide for us, like other signings have been for other clubs, rather than someone who's just going to come in and completely flop. I'm not saying he's going to be an amazing centre-back for us, but hopefully he could be hopefully he can surprise some people. I'm just thinking.
For me, this just stinks of like a Joe Rodon signing, something like that. You know what I mean? Like someone that we're panicking towards the end of the window. He's English. He's a ball-playing centre-back, left-footed, ticks a few boxes. So why not? Let's bring him in towards the end of the window. It just stinks of a panic buy to me.
It does, but I think the profile makes sense. So let's just hope that he can surprise our fan base.
Yeah, let's hope so. But let's move on to the last story of the day so far, and that is regarding Conor Gallagher of Chelsea. Gary Jacobs says that Tottenham are expected to bid for Conor Gallagher today. Paul O'Keefe says any move for Conor Gallagher is entirely dependent on Hojbjerg leaving the club. And Sam Wallace of The Telegraph says that Tottenham and Chelsea are currently negotiating the transfer of Conor Gallagher. Chelsea want £45 million for the 23-year-old, while Spurs' valuation is closer to £35 million. And I guess, like, if we were to do a deal somewhere in the middle, but I still just find it very hard to believe that Chelsea are going to sell to us.
Yeah, I think Chelsea make a mistake if they sell to us. I think he's a good player, Conor Gallagher, and I think having a player like Conor Gallagher in your squad who was a Chelsea Academy product, and as he said himself, he was so proud to captain Chelsea the other day, and that he grew up 10 minutes away from Stamford Bridge and he's a Chelsea fan. I think to have that kind of player on your books, and as well, I think he's a good quality player. I don't think you should let that go so easily as they are. And I don't think maybe because they've been blinded by the fact they spent 100 million on Caicedo, they spent 100 million on Enzo, they might feel like they don't need someone like Conor Gallagher and these maybe surplus requirements. But I think that would be a mistake from Chelsea. But I think that mistake could be to our benefit, in my opinion. And I think if we were to sign him, I do think it adds the quality in midfield. I think it ups the offensive ability when it comes to being in and around the final third. I think he's got really good ability in that front. I think he adds good energy as well. He adds good depth and competition for our current central midfield options. I would be really happy. And I think the price kind of makes sense. If we can get 35 million or 30 million for Hojbjerg, then go and spend the majority of their money and go sign Conor Gallagher, I think that makes sense. But just the most surprising thing is whether Chelsea, and more importantly Conor Gallagher, whether he's willing to come to Spurs. Those are the most surprising things if that does come to pass. Maybe Chelsea have told Conor, look, we don't see you as a vital important player in our squad, and we've signed these players for 100 million, and unfortunately your surplus requirements, which would be a very difficult conversation for someone like Gallagher, who's probably really desperate to play for Chelsea. So for me, I would love to get this deal done. It sounds like the noise around it seems like it's moving in a positive direction. But again, it's going to be dependent, as people are saying, on Hojbjerg. And at the moment, he doesn't seem close to leaving because he's struggling to agree the deal with Fulham. And it's whether Atletico come in with a serious bid.
Yeah, so a lot of moving parts to this one if we do want to get Conor in. I think he's a really good player, young prospect. He was even in the talking of the England squad not long ago.
I think he's been called up, yeah.
Yeah, he has been called up. And I think when you're looking at his loan spell at Crystal Palace a couple of years ago, I mean, he really showed true quality in that loan spell at Crystal Palace. And, he was very much trusted. He was one of their best players in that team. And he was getting goals. He was getting a lot of yellow cards, not going to lie. But I think he showed his quality. And I think that kind of decreased when he went back into Chelsea and just played a bit of a bit part role and wasn't given the kind of authority in the squad that maybe he deserved on the back of his Crystal Palace loan spell. So I think if we can get him in, I think he suits the kind of what we're trying to do with this squad. I think he'll fit in well. But I just question if Chelsea are really going to let him go to us when push comes to shove. I really do. But look, that seems to be all we got at the moment. I'm just checking quickly if there are any updates just before we move on. But it doesn't seem that way. So that's at the moment.
I've heard from a few, by the way, just to touch on Conor Gallagher. I've been reading up on what Chelsea fans think of the deal, and a lot of Chelsea fans have been saying that this season under Poch, he started the season really well and is actually looking a lot better than he was last season. So maybe being with a manager like Pochettino has really helped his development a bit. So I think that's also more encouraging if we were to bring him in, the fact he's looked better this season for Chelsea.
I want him in. I think he's a very good player, to be honest. And again, it ticks so many boxes. I think he'll fit the system a lot better than what Pierre-Emile or Hojbjerg does. And he's a young player and he's got a genuine quality about him. So I say bring him in, but I just question if Chelsea are actually going to...
and you saw this one, Simon Joe says we made a verbal offer. 40 million including add-ons, it says, for
all
Johnson.
Right. I mean, if we're making these offers, surely Hojbjerg is close to the exit door.
Surely you'd have to think that.
But look, that is the Tottenham update that we have at this moment in time. But we've got a guest to come and speak to us about Brennan Johnson about to come on. He goes by the name of Wolfie. He's from Forest Fan TV. So let's bring him on.
How are you boys doing?
Good, thank you, mate. How you doing, Wolfie?
Mate, I'm just trying to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy 24 hours. We've had 5 or 6 come through the door already and we're not done. Yeah, it's just, you got to love these transfer day deadlines, don't you?
I mean, Nottingham Forest ever since you got promoted to the Premier League last season, you just seem to be making a signing a day, pretty much every day till this current day. So what is going on with Forest? I mean, never stop spending money.
Well, it's all dependent on this Brennan Johnson deal. We spent big last year, about 140, 150 million pounds. And, you know, what other promoted club did that? The other 2 that came up with us didn't spend that much. Look at the 3 that came up this year. They would kill to spend what we've spent. And it's all about Marinakis. Marinakis' ambitions for the club is just huge. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. And for me, he just has to take all the plaudits for what he's doing right now. And, you know, we want to be an established Premier League team again. It's where we belong. And, yeah, we're going to have to get signings in. I mean, Sangare is done from what I'm being told now. And that is just ridiculous. It's crazy that he's coming.
I mean, it is an unbelievable deal for someone of that stature to come into Nottingham Forest this season. But I'm guessing that deal is very much reliant on Brennan Johnson leaving the club. Yeah. There's been a lot of rumours and a lot of talk that Brennan Johnson to Spurs is very much advanced. So we want to get your opinion on that deal. And first of all, give me your what you think of how Brennan Johnson has done for Nottingham Forest so far and what he'll bring to Spurs.
Brennan Johnson for Forest has just come through the ranks, and year on year his growth has been exponential. He got loaned out to Lincoln a couple of seasons back, did a great job there. Then he came last season now, as we look at it, in the Championship, got us the goals that got us up. He just scares the defense. And even last year, look, we play a low block system in the Premier League. And for a kid to debut in the Premier League, score 8 Premier League goals, I think he got 11 in all competitions, in a team that's not playing attacking football, should tell you guys exactly what you're getting. He's lightning fast. I know everyone always talks about his pace, but it's something that we've utilized last year. And his finishing is very clean. You know, he puts away most of his chances and he scores some great goals. For me, the highlight goal last year was against Leeds from just around the edge of the box, smacks it in. He's not afraid to have a shot. And I heard what you guys were saying about him earlier, and I agree with pretty much everything you've said. I know there's a bit of a debate in the Spurs fan base. As you guys know, my brother's a Spurs fan. I've been trying to convince him that he's better than Kulusevski. And, you know, that debate's been ongoing. But I honestly, genuinely believe if you put Brennan Johnson in an attacking team. Now, if you still had Conte in charge, I'd be saying to you guys, I don't think it will work. But with your new boy in charge, the style of football you're doing, he's going to be ideal for you. And yes, predominantly he plays on the right-hand side. He has played as the 9 for us as well. It's not his position. So any Spurs fans thinking he's coming in to replace Kane, that's not what you're getting. He can do it, but he's not. You don't get the best out of him. And very occasionally he has been switched over to the left. It's something that I think Cooper should have experimented a bit more with, inverting him so he can cut in and shoot more. But honestly, I think this will be a great move for Forest and a great move for Spurs, because you're lacking in pace for me up front and you put him out wide. There's not many wingers that are going to score you the amount of goals that he can bring. And that's something that, you know, needs to be taken into account, boys.
Yeah, and talking about, one of the questions I was going to ask is what you feel his best position is. You're very clear about him being a right winger. So his competition will be Kulusevski, and how we like to play with our wingers at the moment, very much stay out wide. We like to manipulate the play so that our wingers get one-on-one situations with their fullback and like to take them on, especially around the outside. Now, I've had my question marks about his ability to operate in those wide areas when maybe space is kind of taken away from him, because I feel like, as you say, Nottingham Forest like to play a bit more low block and transitional in the Premier League, but that in a weird way, when you do get a chance to attack, that will leave a lot of space for Brennan Johnson. That's kind of into his benefit. So how do you feel like he'll fare if the space is a bit squeezed and he doesn't have that the space to kind of, because he likes to kind of push the ball past the defender and run the other side, but when he's not afforded that space, how do you think he'll fare when maybe the ball's a bit tighter to him, fullbacks are tighter to him, and he has to operate in smaller spaces?
That's the developmental point for me with Brennan. He's traditionally worked last year, especially with a lot of space. Now, where that will work for him, he's not the player, as you say, that can skill a player, go around him, and then accelerates off. He's raw. He's a kind of push and run wide player. Now, where he will work well, if I take you back, and I'm going to talk about my other boy that you lot messed up with, Jed Spence. When we were playing in the let's not go down.
You could have taken him back if you wanted, Wolfie. It was available for you guys this summer.
We've already got like 5 right backs now. But where he works well, if you want him in those tight spaces, you need that overlapper coming from your fullback position. Him and Jed Spence had really good chemistry. Yes, it was in the Championship, but you need your fullback to help create that space for Jono to run into, and you need to get those overloads in there. That, for me, if you're playing in those tighter spaces where maybe you're pushing the opposition defense a bit deeper, that's where you're going to need him to double up with the fullback. And that's how you'll get the best out of him. But as he is now, taking on a player in tight spaces isn't his thing. But the other thing he's done, he's bulked up a little. He looks a lot stronger, especially last season. So physically, I mean, he cleaned out Richarlison at the City Ground, didn't he? When he tried to ball juggle one. So he's got a bit of aggression on him as well. And guys, let's not forget his age. He's 22. He's still got his best years ahead of him. And I think my worry for him is that he will be judged quickly by the Spurs fans, whereas at Forest, he's always been like one of our own, born and bred Nottingham, raised through, and we've been patient with him, especially at the start of last year, where potentially people were saying, was he worried about the World Cup and staying fit for it, etc. But coming back from the World Cup, that's when he just accelerated and he got all those goals for us.
Yeah, and also, one thing that's quite vital for a winger at Tottenham is being able to create chances, cutbacks, crosses in the box. Obviously, he seems like more of a goal scorer, to be honest, from what I've seen. He seems more of like a wide forward than a winger. But do you think he has it in his game? Like, do you see does he set up chances for Forest players and gets let down with their finishing or stuff like that? Or is he much more of a goal scorer than a creator from the wide area?
Initially, I'd say a goal scorer, but his game developed into crossing as well. He's not a high crosser of the ball. He usually plays a low one in. And we saw towards the back end of last season, the link-up playing between him and Awani was part of the reason we were able to stay up. So what you can get with him is he'll get in behind those defenders. If you've got the numbers in the box. Now, traditionally with Forest last season, it was 1 or 2 if we were lucky. But if you guys are breaking your midfielders in there, then he has the potential to find it. But I would say it's a developmental point again for him. His crossing was really bad at the start of last season. He sometimes would ignore an easy squared ball across to go and shoot instead. But you saw that develop in the latter half of last season. And the thing with him, he's keen to learn. He knows his potential and he knows he needs to listen to people to take that next step up. And I think you're going to get someone who's just ready and willing. And, he honestly, guys, he's got the potential. You guys were talking about Gordon earlier, his 45 million price tag or whatever it was. Jono outdid him last season, in my opinion, in terms of goals and what he provided. And that, again, I'll reiterate, is in a low block team. You put him into the style of football you guys are now playing. Because one of his negatives, if I give you his negatives, is he's not very good at tracking back and defending. A lot of the time it's under instruction from Cooper and the management to keep him forward, to kind of give the opposition something to worry about. But defending-wise, if you're going to look for that in him, again, another thing that needs to develop.
And I'm guessing because we're kind of transitioning to a bit of a high pressing team. Like obviously Forest don't really press that much, but when you do have those opportunities to press, is that something he's kind of capable of?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest frustrations that we don't press at all. But he's got the pace to press, and I don't know why it's not done. So pressing from the front line is something I think he's more than capable of if he's instructed to do it. He hasn't been under Forest. And I think that will help you. With his pace, if he can put the pressure on those defenders, you could turn the ball over quite high up in the opposition half, or at least even him just closing down could create the pressure of a bad pass from the opposition and create those turnover opportunities. So yeah, it's something that he hasn't had to do at Forest, but not because he hasn't wanted to do it necessarily, but it's been under instruction. Get 11 men behind the ball in our half, be organized. Jono usually left up higher on the right hand side with us. But yeah, that's how I'd read that.
Is he is he a two-footed player? How's his weak foot, or is he very reliant on his right foot?
His left foot's okay. He's I'd say like 85% right footed, but he's not scared to shoot with his left foot. I would say majority of his goals off the top of my head have come from his right foot. He's not good in the air. I'll tell you that. That's his weakness. He won't be in there to bang a header into the back of the net. But left foot, he won't be scared to shoot with his left foot. But predominantly, his favored shot is that shot across goal from the right-hand side going into the far corner. But if you get him in behind the defense, you can't catch him. You can't catch him. As you boys were saying earlier, it was only late in the season that Kyle Walker overtook him for being the quickest in the Premier League. And he's only 22. He's still going to get faster.
In terms of like how he performed, because we're going to have a lot of possession and we're going to try and be like a lot of the time passing, moving and stuff like that. Do you like... when he's not on the wing and he's maybe asked to come inside and link play a bit, little passes with one-touch passing and stuff like that, do you think that's part of his game that he would also excel in? Or do you think, sometimes his first touch can be off, or sometimes he can frustrate with like misplaced passes? Or do you think that that's stuff that he can excel at?
Yeah, he's okay at doing the 1-2 link-ups. As I was saying with Jed Spence, it was fantastic. He's done it last season with Morgan Gibbs-White. I feel sometimes he finds himself running out of space where he gets too tight to the touchline. And then I've seen it a few times where he literally just runs the ball out of play because he's got nowhere to go. But the link, he will look to do those quick 1-2s, get in behind the defender. And, if you got Maddison now, I'm sure Maddison will be able to find those passes. So I see that as a good connection coming up with him. But in general, look, don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of development still to go. But if you look at his trajectory and the path so far, it's on the up and up. And he's not going to shirk the responsibility. The thing I would say to you guys, though, again, just to kind of give a balanced argument to the conversation, is that he can drift out of games. So you will find that he can, in some matches, just be a moments player. But, again, you've got to take into account the style of football that Forest are playing. So don't expect him to be involved 90 minutes in a match, or what is it these days, 115 minutes with all the injury time in it. So, but expect that from him, but expect that he will drift out of games, but then he will have those magical moments. And when he shoots, it's usually on target or in the net.
What's the kind of Forest's fans' opinion on the price point? You're talking about 45 to 50 million. A lot of Spurs fans are saying it's way too much. We shouldn't be paying this much for someone like Brennan Johnson. What's the feeling within the Nottingham Forest fan base about the price that he's going for?
You got some Forest fans who've got him at 30 and some that have got him at 100 and some that have got him as unsellable. Yeah, no, seriously, I'm not even joking. I personally benchmarked him against Gordon, I think is the best example. Look, they're not identical in their play style, but I think 40 to 50 million is a fair price, in my opinion, because you've got to add in the other things. You lost Harry Kane, homegrown player. You're going to need your quota in there. Yes, it might not impact you this year, but he is Welsh, but he is born and bred Nottingham, and that in itself adds a tax. The other thing you got to look at is you've had the Man City player going to Chelsea, who's had minutes in the Premier League, not not a whole season, and he's gone for 45 million. So in the market we're currently sitting in, I think 50 million is a fair price, and I think his value will go up as he starts to excel at Spurs. I do get the debate, I really do, but we got to understand the market we're living in. I remember when Collymore went back in the day, it was like 8 million, whatever it was, and I was like, wow, you know, and now you can barely get yourself a youth player these days for that. So we got to understand the market we're living in. We really do. And you got to add that tax because he's homegrown.
Yeah, but despite the market, as a Forest fan wanting to keep one of your best players, are you a bit frustrated with the board that they're potentially allowing him to leave on deadline days, so close to the end of the window when it's maybe going to be difficult to get the targets you want to replace him? Or are you more like of the understanding side, like when you get that kind of price, you just got to accept it?
For me personally, I feel like it's been on the cards all summer. There's been heavy links with him with Brentford. Brentford have had, I think, a 43 million bid rejected a few weeks ago. They put a 30 million bid in at the start of the window. So because we are tight on FFP, look, we can't, as Forest fans, sit there and clap every single signing and expect more and not understand that players have to leave to balance the books. The frustration for me is some of the silly deals we've done, bringing in Chris Wood for 19 million. Nothing against the actual player, but a deal of 19 million in total for someone who's in his 30s. That frustrates me. So you do ask the question, had we not done some of these deals, would we have had to get rid of our prized asset? But the other key thing that Forest fans have to understand is because he's come through the academy, because he's one of our own, he goes down as complete profit on FFP. It's better to sell him than to sell a Taiwo or a Morgan Gibbs-White, because this is an academy player who's come through the system. And I think Forest fans do understand that. He will always hold a special place in our heart. When you guys come to the City Ground, he'll be applauded. There's no two ways about it. We love him, but we do understand that football has to be run as a business. You know, if you want to keep the doors open, then you sometimes have to sell your prize assets.
All right, Wolfie, thank you so much for coming on today. Some really good and positive insight into Brennan Johnson. Hopefully the words that you've given us go some way to swaying some of those Spurs fans that were on the fence on him. But yeah, thanks for coming on today, mate.
Yeah, no worries. I'm still trying to persuade my brother, but I'll bring him around as well, mate.
I'm sure you will. You definitely done good words to convincing a lot of the Spurs fans. So we'll speak to you soon, and hopefully we'll catch up when our clubs play each other.
Yeah, looking forward to it, boys. Thanks for having us on as always, and speak soon.
Cheers, appreciate it, Wolfie. Cheers. And go check out Forest Fan TV if you want to know all the Forest opinion on the Brennan Johnson deal and any more Nottingham Forest fan content as well. Go check it out.
Yeah, so I think we should get into the match preview for the big Burnley game this weekend. It's important to note that Ange is currently doing his press conference at the moment, and he's talking of the team news, and he says, from who are available for selection against Fulham, the only one that's missing is Giovanni Lo Celso. He's got a bit of a quad strain, nothing too serious. Hopefully he'll be back after the international break, and that's why he was taken off at half-time. So it looks as though Mickey van de Ven is fine after that knock he did pick up in that Fulham game, so that's positive.
Very positive. I think considering he was limping at the end, I think everyone was fearing the worst, especially because he was so like head and shoulders above anyone else in that backline. You're thinking if he's out, we're really struggling if any of those other players in the backline have to fill in for him. So very good news that he's fit and available to play. We're going to need him. So I'm delighted with that news.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Obviously, the head-to-head between Spurs and Burnley, not too much to read into it, seeing as Burnley were in the Championship last year. And not only were they in the Championship last year, but the last time they were in the Premier League, it was a completely different look. Burnley's side, it was under Sean Dyche, playing low-block football, very defensive style. And it's going to be a completely different game this time round. They've got Vincent Kompany now. They like to play on the front foot. They like to press high up the pitch. And I think this one will play into our favour, to be honest. And I think for me, from what I've seen from Burnley so far, they're a bit too naive in what they're doing in the Premier League so far. And I think that's going to be to their detriment, in my opinion. And I think they are one of the candidates so far from what I've seen to go down this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be to their detriment when they play teams like Man City and Aston Villa, I think. And look, they're now coming up to their third game is Tottenham. So they've had a very difficult start. It doesn't get much harder for teams like Burnley when you have that kind of start. I think their wins are they're going to be judged against teams in the lower half. That's where they're going to be making their money better, basically, when it comes to getting points on the board. So I think it's hard to be too harsh on them when it comes to how they've started to life in the Premier League. But as well, you have to say they just haven't made life difficult enough for their opposition so far when it comes to stopping them with their attacks and being too open. They like to play with a 4-4-2 with two strikers and get players up the pitch, play with wide wingers, play with two strikers very centrally when they press, and they like to press high and be aggressive. But it might have worked in the Championship when you've got maybe less technical players you're facing, and maybe you've got the superior players. But when you're coming to the Premier League and you're facing the big teams like Man City and Aston Villa, you just can't allow them that kind of space, and you can't be that naive to think that you can play them off the park like you did teams in the Championship. And for the first two games, they've definitely come unstuck. They've definitely the first two games they've made life really easy for the opposition to just pick them off and score goals on the counter attack. You saw against Man City that Edison, that second half, they were just playing balls long to Haaland because they knew that Burnley were just pressing all the way up. They were throwing all the risk, and they knew one long ball to Haaland, he was in on goal, and it really worked a treat for them many times. Aston Villa were sitting deep and just knew if they soaked up enough pressure from Burnley without too much trouble, they're going to have the quality to hit them on the counter-attack going the other way because they've got the superior players in that regard, and Burnley are going to leave themselves open. So it'll be interesting to see if they do go for a new approach, Burnley, in this game, if they notice that, or if they're going to continue with their principles, which I envision they will because it's still very early on. And if they do that, I think that's going to play into Tottenham's hands.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned those first two games of the season against Man City and Aston Villa, which I thought, they just were way too naive. Like, if you bring up those stats of the first, if that's including pre-season as well, in the first two games of the season, you talk about Man City going direct to Haaland. Spurs don't really have that option with, we've got Richarlison, who's probably going to be fit for this game. He'll probably start number 9, or you could face Heung-min Son up there, but they don't have that kind of presence up front where we can just lump the ball forward from a Mickey van der Ven, from a Cuti Romero, that will make it stick up there. So do you think maybe the way Spurs play, how do you think that will impact the way Burnley play?
I think I actually think Burnley are going to probably stick with their 4-4-2 because I think they're going to want those two strikers to press on our centre-backs to try and limit our build-up play. So it's going to be vital that when we do that, instead of like most teams having one striker with maybe a 4-3-3 and then you have one striker on the centre-back and maybe move a midfielder into the centre, they're going to have those two strikers. So they're going to have wingers and the midfielder and the two centre mids already in those central positions. So we're going to have to be very careful when we do that. And look, I think there's a reason why Man City went long in that second half, and it wasn't just totally because they saw the gaps in the back, which they did, but it's more just to completely bypass that Burnley press. There's no need to engage in it when you can just go long into Haaland and he can hold the ball up. Now, we have Richarlison, unfortunately, in the forward line, and he's going to be fit to play, so there's probably a good chance he plays. Can I see him getting the same joy against the Burnley centre-backs than Haaland was? And if he doesn't, then he's not going to make it stick enough, and that's going to be a problem for us if the balls continue coming back. So we've got to have to watch that situation. But what I like about what I've seen in the first 3 Premier League games anyway is that different teams have asked us a few different questions to our pressing game and our build-up play, and we've been able to find some solutions. Like, so against Brentford, we were very much inverted, but against Man United, the fullbacks were a bit wider because they knew that Man United were going to focus on pressing us through the centre, and so we found the solution. So I'm backing Ange to go into this game with his eyes open on how Burnley are going to press us with their two strikers and come up with solutions. But it might mean Maddison again has to drop deep and provide that extra option, so it allows us to bypass their press, or it means that look, Richarlison's going to have to be in with a battle, and we're going to have to go long sometimes, and he's going to have to make it stick in the forward line. So I think there are different solutions, but I think we haven't come up against a two-striker system yet, so it'll be interesting to see how we fare.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously Van der Ven being fit is a massive plus for us for this one, as well as Cuti Romero. I think they're going to be so important for us coming into this game, as they are every game. It's a shame that probably Brennan Johnson, the deadline's passed now for him to be available for the game tomorrow. If we were to sign him, I think 12 o'clock was that deadline. But in a game like this, like Brennan Johnson with that pace in behind would have been, how vital would he have been in this game?
I think he would have had, it depends, because whether Burnley want to dominate, will try and dominate, and whether they are forced back because we actually are going to dominate the ball, and because we've been quite good at keeping possession. I think Kulu will definitely have his assets, but I definitely think on the occasions where Burnley do have the ball on the ground and are keeping possession, which we know they can do, someone like Brennan Johnson, who's just ready to go as soon as we win possession to burst into that space they leave, would be a massive asset. But I envisage us to dominate possession, to be honest. I do think we're going to have the majority of the ball. So in that sense, I think Kulu will be just fine in this kind of game.
In terms of, you're looking at the Burnley team, the two players that we've picked out as the one to watch is Amdouni, who scored 12 goals and got 4 assists in the Championship last season in 32 games, and Sander Berge, their new signing, who I think is a really good player, to be honest. 6 goals and 5 assists last season for Sheffield United in the Championship. Massive loss to give for Sheffield United, just to sell to a rival who have come up from the Championship last year. And I don't get this trend. Why would Sheffield United let that happen?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, and especially because they've replaced him, but no, have they really replaced him with a player who's as good as what Sander Berge was offering them? I remember when he signed for Sheffield United back in, I think it was 2020, like in lockdown, and he was a very good player back then. I think he really fit into the Premier League. Obviously, he's been back down to the Championship now, but he's obviously been fantastic, one of the main players in the Championship for Sheffield United. I think Burnley have done really well to get him through the door, and I think he's a really good box-to-box midfielder, very good off the ball, but also has a decent technical ability. He reminds me a bit like of PM or Hojbjerg, to be honest, the way he plays. Like, he's like very good. He's like good at all facets of the game. I don't think he's like outstanding at anything, but I think he's very good at a lot of different aspects. He's a very good all-rounder.
Very hard worker.
Yeah, very hard worker as well. So I think he's definitely one where if he has a good day, he's going to be very hard to stop him. It's going to be about making sure that Bissouma's on top of his game to make sure that he doesn't have too much influence on this game.
If you bring up the predicted 11 for Burnley, you see there's a lot of doubts and injuries for Burnley, but looking at that 11 and the way they set up, does anything worry you coming into this game?
Nothing really overly concerns me. I think their back line is definitely suspect. I think we've seen that already. I think they can definitely be got at. They don't seem too strong. They seem a bit brittle, to be honest, for a Premier League level, although they were strong in the Championship. Going forward, I actually like Amdouni. I like what I've seen so far. He's been one of the ones who actually seems to be trying to make things happen in the forward line, albeit he's had limited amount of the ball, and it's been hasn't really been able to get any sort of goals and assists or anything. But I think it's just going to be a case of if we're good enough of playing through their press and making sure that there's no amount of high turnovers, we're going to have more than enough of quality to open them up, especially with Maddison in the form he's in. And it's whether we can take the chances. I think we're going to be able to create a number of chances in this game, to be honest. I see a kind of game where we're dominating and having many chances and many shots, because I don't think Burnley want to sit back, and I don't think they're very good at doing that when they're doing it. I think if we were talking about them under Sean Dyche or another team, it would be a lot more difficult for us. But I'm looking at them under Vincent Kompany, and it's not to say that maybe when they do come up against a Bournemouth or a different kind of team, they can get a lot more joy when the quality isn't as high. But against teams like Spurs, who have shown already this season that defensively we've been fairly strong, and we've been very press resistant when we're asked questions, and we're able to play through teams like we showed against Bournemouth, then I think they're gonna have their work out, and it's going to be a case of quality shining through, in my opinion.
And in terms of what lineup Spurs are going to potentially play, I do imagine it's probably going to be unchanged from the previous 2 Premier League games, and you're looking at a midfield of Bissouma, Sarr and Maddison. I mean, surely that's going to be too much for Burnley to handle in the middle of the park there.
Yeah, because I think it has too much energy, and I think the most important thing is Bissouma. He's just, when he gets on the ball and he's being pressed, and you're asking him, can you beat a couple players and create the space? We know he can do that. And do I think Burnley have the capability? I'm looking at Burnley's team, and do I think they have that midfield who are going to be capable of stopping them? I just can't see it. I think that he's going to be too strong for them. And obviously, he had a bit of a dodgy period in the second half against Bournemouth, ended up getting taken off. But he has had now a free week. Didn't play at all in the Carabao Cup against Fulham. So I'm expecting him to be fresh as ever, as solid as ever. And I think that him being back to his best is going to be the key thing to get us the win. And that is where I think that midfield, being able to play through them and create the space, that's where the game's going to be won, in my opinion.
So having said that, how do you see the game playing out, and what are your predictions going into it?
I've predicted 3-0 Spurs. I think that Burnley will huff and puff without much joy, a bit like Bournemouth. I reckon they'll have a few moments where they threaten to create openings, and maybe we'll have a few shots. But I just don't see the quality there to really, especially with the news that Van der Ven is fit and ready to play. I don't see the quality there to really hurt our backline, and I don't see the quality in their backline to stop us creating the volume of chances that would be required to win this game. So I just think with Maddison in full flight, our first team didn't have the game time in midweek as well, so they should be fresh going into this game. And Burnley did play in midweek as well. I think they played actually they also rested a lot of players, but I think they probably played a few more first team players than we did. So I've gone for 3-0 Spurs.
Yeah, I was just going to check to see what kind of team that they did play in the Carabao Cup. Who did they play in the Carabao?
Forest away, and they won.
And they won
1-0.
So you imagine if they did win.
I looked at their team. I think it was fairly rested, to be fair. I think like Jay Rodriguez played up front, Goodmanson. It wasn't the kind of first team.
Yeah, actually, none of the players I think that we were talking about there even played. They got Muric in goal, Vitinho, Ekdal, O'Shea and Taylor at the back, Brownhill and Redmond in midfield, with Brun Larsen, Ramsey, Gudmundsson and Rodriguez up top. So fairly rested, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I do think Spurs should be able to completely take the game to Burnley this weekend. I think the way they play will actually suit the way we want to play as well. There'll be a lot of space for Spurs players to play in. I think man for man, I just think we're just so superior to them in every position, to be honest. I think the defence will be able to handle anything that comes their way. The midfield should be able to dominate the proceedings as well. So I kind of agree with you. I think in my predictions I said 2-0, and I'll stick with it, to be honest, but hopefully Richarlison can get on that score sheet two games in a row. So I'm going 2-0. My brother's going 3-0. Let me know your score predictions in the comment section below. That is your match preview for the Burnley game. And let me know how you think the game is going to pan out. A couple of transfer dealings to talk about as well regarding Hojbjerg and Conor Gallagher. Matt Barlow says regarding Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg, he has turned down a move to Fulham and his reluctance to leave could affect Spurs in their pursuit for Conor Gallagher. But Jason Burt says that Hojbjerg has turned down a move to Fulham, but talks are still ongoing and the deal is not dead as of yet. And Simon, you want to say anything?
No, I was going to say it's a massive shame if that him stopping just stops us from getting Conor Gallagher. I just hope that there can be a resolution there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's positive that Jason Burt saying that talks are still ongoing and the deal isn't dead yet. But I mean, if Hojbjerg's not open to going there, then I don't really understand what negotiations can take place. But Conor Gallagher, Simon Jones saying that Tottenham have made a verbal offer of up to £40 million, including add-ons for Chelsea midfielder Conor Gallagher. So I just imagine that they're trying to get a deal in place that if Hojbjerg does go, they can just push the button.
And I just said that Hojbjerg deal, that Gallagher deal definitely hinges on Hojbjerg, it seems. I don't think we're going to be prepared to spend that money on Gallagher without getting a significant fee from Hojbjerg. So look, it's all going to be about these dominoes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of news. I really hope. I'm very excited about the prospect of replacing Hojbjerg with Conor Gallagher. I think that would be a fantastic move for Spurs, and I think that would really go into fitting what Ange Postecoglou wants his side to look like. I think Conor Gallagher as well will really help with our pressing game. It will help us off the ball as well as on the ball. So I'm super excited, but let's just hope this Hojbjerg deal doesn't hold it up, and at the end of the window we're not sitting here thinking, Hojbjerg's still here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting here now nearly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the 11 p.m. deadline tonight, and we're still so don't know what is going to happen today. And we still need another defender in, we need a midfielder in, we need Brennan Johnson in. And in terms of the outgoings as well, I mean, there's so many players' futures up in the air. at this stage of the transfer window, it's hard to believe that we're going to get all this business done by the end of play today.
Yeah, just another little update here from Pipe Sierra, who's a journalist out in France. He's claiming that Rennes have had a €7 million offer rejected for Davinson Sanchez. Spurs want €12 million. The French club are considering another bid. So that's more positive in a way than the updates we heard earlier that Rennes have completely pulled out. So let's hope that they have come in with another bid. Although L'Equipe did say earlier that they did bid 12 million. So a lot of conflicting reports coming out from France. Hopefully there's a resolution found, because that would be a fantastic fee. I mean, for me, I would accept 7 million if it meant getting him out the door. But let's just hope that there's a resolution found for this one.
Yeah, I think we should get some callers on, to be honest. So shall we put the link out?
Yeah, let's put
on
the
the
link
community
out.
section. So put the link out. We'll get some callers on to have their say on the transfer window and the game against Burnley this weekend. But as of now, there's not really much news filtering through. It was going a bit crazy this morning.
Graham Bailey, he's a journalist of 90, and he's claiming that Fulham have identified Tanguy Ndombele as a potential replacement for the outgoing João Paulinho. That was 5 hours ago.
That came out quite a long time ago.
I thought it was 5 minutes ago. No, 5 hours
I saw
ago.
that, but
I
didn't add it to the update just because I thought it was just so unrealistic.
That can't be true. Matteo Moretto has now said that Pierre Hojbjerg has just turned down Fulham as the player only wants to play for Atletico, and there are still some chances. So maybe the Atletico deal is not completely dead. They have just sold, as of today, I think, Yannick Carrasco to Saudi. So if they can use some of that money to go towards Pierre Hojbjerg, that'd be really, really positive.
Bit of a jump, isn't it? Fulham to Atletico Madrid, or a drop, should I say? Atletico Madrid to Fulham. I mean, if you're in Hojbjerg's shoes, I mean, you know what he's going to do.
And also, João Felix is also set to join Barcelona from Atletico. So there definitely are outgoings going out of Atletico. So if they can use that money for Hojbjerg, it seems as though that would point in that direction, I'm hoping.
Yeah, let's hope so.
And also, one conversation I think is interesting to have is, with Brennan Johnson coming in, what does that mean for like Manuel Solomon if Perisic is still here? Mm-hmm. Like if Son is playing out of the left at the moment, you've got Johnson and Kulusevski out wide. On the right, if he seems to be third choice in now the both winger positions.
Yeah, I think it very much depends on what happens throughout the season with Richarlison and Heung-min Son. If Heung-min Son's going to move centrally, if Richarlison is going to keep impacting the team the way he is, I think Manuel Solomon can get his opportunities if Son moves centrally. But if he doesn't, I mean, I don't know. It looks a bit bleak for Manuel Solomon, to be honest. I think Ivan Perisic obviously is not getting any younger. So I think Manuel Solomon, maybe this season might see reduced game time, but Perisic won't be here for much longer after this season, if any time after this season. So I think, he's going to have to be patient and wait for his chances.
But it just calls into question why we made this signing, in my opinion, because if you've signed Manuel Solomon on a free, and you surely value signed him because you really believe this guy can be a really good winger for us and he could really impact the team. But then all of a sudden you've signed him and Perisic is ahead of him on the left wing, in his favoured position, and then can he play on the right? Well, you would rather sign 50 million and spend 50 million and send Brennan Johnson than trust Manuel Solomon. So just and he hasn't played him in his favoured position when he's given a start against Fulham. He played him out on the right rather than on the left. In the Premier League, he apart from a few minutes against Man United, he hasn't gotten any minutes. He's much preferred to bring on Perisic than Manuel Solomon. So look, it's still early days. So I don't want to make sweeping judgments, but right now he just doesn't seem to want to give him a go. He doesn't seem to trust him at the moment.
Look, it's been 3 or 4 games. I mean, there's no time to really judge at all. I think you need to wait until at least halfway through the season and see how much minutes he's acquired since then to really make your judgment on Manuel Solomon. But I genuinely think the Perisic was out the door before, as Manuel Solomon was coming through the door. So maybe that was the plan, and Perisic is impressed and everything like that. But this isn't a signing. Like, you don't have to just judge a signing on one season. You can see over the next couple of years if he does make that impact. Perisic will be leaving at the end of the season. He's what, 34 years old, 35 years old, Ivan Perisic. So even if he doesn't get as much game time as he would like this season, I think the opportunity will be there for him next season once Perisic leaves.
Yeah, but then what if we're relying on Perisic this season on the left wing, and let's say he does quite well or whatever, and we're not fancying Solomon, Well, who's to say we're going to fancy him next season and not just sign another left winger? You know what I mean?
It's up to Ange to develop him, develop his skills, and see where we go with him.
But I'm saying if he's not getting in ahead of Perisic now, is that not a red flag?
I mean, I think Perisic has a lot of quality, though. You know, you can't deny that. Perisic is very much suited to the way Ange wants to play, in my opinion, with the quality he has getting crosses in the box. Manor Solomon just isn't there yet, and I think he's still got a lot of developing to do, Manor Solomon, and he needs to work hard to get his chances. And I don't think he's just going to get his chances straight away. It's gonna be a process, and he's going to need to earn those chances.
But that's a problem then, because we should have signed a winger who's ready to play. Why have we signed him on a free when we don't think he's ready? It doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me. That's a source of frustration. And I think the Brennan Johnson thing, is even more on that, because we were told that Solomon can play on the right and that he's going to be that he maybe can fill in that position. But it seems we don't want him to, because we're signing Brennan Johnson now for 50 million, who's going to be competing with Kulusevski. That's going to limit Solomon even more. So I don't know. Right now I'm envisaging just like Solomon just being left out in the cold at the moment. I'm getting worried about it.
Yeah, look, it does seem that way right now with 3 games into the season, but you never know how things can progress throughout the season. Different players emerge throughout different periods of the season, and we just got to hope that Manor Solomon is one of those players. We've seen it many a time with many different players over the years at Spurs, so why can't it happen with Manor Solomon this year?
It can, but that's just hope rather than anything else.
Yeah, but we can't really judge anything on 3 games into the season. We can judge maybe he doesn't fancy him on the right hand side because we've signed Brennan Johnson, but you never know what can happen if Son moves centrally, and then you've got the 2 options on the left hand side of Perisic and Manor Solomon. You just don't know what can happen throughout the season, and I think he's a good option to have.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Look, I'm not saying he's not a good option. I'm not saying that things can't change. Of course they can change. I'm just saying right now, I just don't understand why I would have signed him if we don't think he should be starting ahead of Perisic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
I get that, but
how can you sign a winger to improve your team and then he can't get in ahead of the 35-year-old who we wanted rid of? You know what I mean? Doesn't make sense to me. So why sign him then? Doesn't make sense.
Because I think you're still having a good option for the squad. Just because he's come in and he hasn't started over Perisic in a Carling Cup game against Fulham, it doesn't mean that we have to make sweeping statements and he's not going to be ahead of Perisic at some point during this season. Perisic obviously has unbelievable quality, and Manor Solomon, we haven't seen that quality as of yet, and he's going to have to earn his right to overstep Perisic in this team.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have signed him if that was the case. I would have liked to have actually spent money on a proper winger who comes in and immediately improves us, rather than someone who we don't really even believe is better than Perisic right now. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have made that deal.
That's fair enough. But free signing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing. It's a free, so we've done it. But I don't know. It's just alarm bells are ringing at the moment. But we'll see. Look, we'll see how it plays out. But I would love to know what callers think of that as well, because I think that's quite an interesting situation with that as well. But let's look. News is just filtering all the time with these transfer news. We'll have to see.
Put the link out, Sammy.
Yeah, no.
We're just getting the link out there for members. So if you do want to have your say, go and check the community section and we'll be accepting calls. I want to hear your opinions on Manor Solomon. I want to hear your opinions on Brennan Johnson, as well as the big game against Burnley. 3 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. You got Sim and Sai with you in the studio doing the watch along. I'll be going up there with Brian Daigle to the depths of Turf Moor and Burnley. I've been trying to swerve this fixture for the past couple of years, to be honest, but now Ange Ball is back and the positivity is back at Spurs. I'm well up for going up there tomorrow, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
We have a few quotes from Ange's press conference as well, which I guess we should touch on. He was asked, Ange was asked if he'd accept club signings this window. He says, I don't know what club signing means. I would never approve a signing that I don't think will fit into the way we want to play. If it's a younger level academy player, of course it's a club. It is club, but at senior level, when you have a manager and when you give him the responsibility, you need to give him players that will suit the way he wants to play. Evidence with the players we've brought in and made an impact, that brief is there for them to fit into the system we want to play. So he's saying he wouldn't accept a signing that doesn't fit his system.
It's fair enough. So Manor Solomon fits into that, I guess.
In theory, he should fit his system. I don't see why he doesn't, but I just don't see the logic in signing a player like a winger if you don't think he's going to improve what you've already got when we were desperate to improve it. It just doesn't make sense. He was also asked what the balance is with new signings between players he wants and ones the scouting department suggests. He said, "It is the players I want and the players the scouting department want that I want." Oh, good old Ange. And then he was asked about the Robbie Williams song as well. I'm going to touch one. Well, I'm just have to find that again. Bear with. I'm trying to find where that was. Now the internet's playing up. He was here. He said, asked about the Robbie Williams video singing about him, but he finds the question funny. He says, that's one of the most backhanded, underwhelming compliments I've ever heard. This club has had some of the most successful managers, and then there's you, Ange. Thanks, mate. Do you love Robbie Williams? Where do you think I've come from? Yeah, I love Robbie Williams. Oh, I love that guy so much.
He does now, anyway.
100%.
All right, let's go and get some callers on. Josh from Spurs Live up first. How you doing, Josh?
Yes, boys. How's the mic, first of all? How's the mic?
All good this time.
All good. Good. How are you guys doing? You right?
Yeah, we're sitting here nearly 2 o'clock on deadline day. A lot of deals potentially happening today. Let's first of all get your opinion on Brennan Johnson. That seems to be the one escalating the fastest today. What's your thoughts?
So, well, I've got to give credit to, I think his name was Wolfie. I mean, he definitely has persuaded me. I was very controversial on this transfer, but I think for the price, I'm fair to be upset about the price. It's 50 mil. It's not a joke. But the player in itself, he sounds like a good player. He sounds like a player we need. He sounds like the type of player that can turn over a game in a counter-attacking manner. In fact, I think he can potentially start ahead of Kulu if this is the player that Wolfie has described and has said that he's great on pace, he's great at shooting, he's got low driven crosses. Then I think he can potentially replace Kulusevski. But I think it gives a good competition, and I always say that at Tottenham Hotspur we need competition, and that's the main focus.
Yeah, but it was interesting to hear what Wolfie was saying about Brennan Johnson, and it was kind of what I alluded to in terms of what reservations I have about the deal. Not that I don't believe he's a good player, but I was asking about his dribbling ability, and he said he's not the kind of player who's going to take on a fullback one-on-one and just do a skill and beat him and be able to open up space like that. He's more of a player who likes space on those positions. So is it going to be just a bit of a learning curve when it comes to adjusting to the right-hand side position, how we like to play it?
I think I think it is all about learning, that right hand side, and I think this right hand side of the team, including the wing back and including that right central midfielder, it all comes together because from what I just literally watched a couple of highlights from Brennan Johnson. I know only highlights gives you the best of people, but from what I saw that Brennan Johnson takes on his man. He dribbles, his pace is unbelievable, but I think he's number one. He's very, very young. I think he's what he said. He's 22 years old. So he's young, and it's all about learning. It's all about learning how he can develop into a potential Gareth Bale. Who knows?
Gareth Bale. That would be quite something.
He's got the pace. Who knows?
Well, he was the last Welsh winger that we did buy. He was a left back at the time, but me and Sim were just having a bit of a discussion on Manuel Solomon regarding where does he fit in now with Brennan Johnson coming in. He seems to be third choice on the right, third choice on the left. I mean, what's your opinion on it?
So, in my opinion, I think left-hand side, he should be up there with Son. He should be competing with Son for that position. I don't see why he can't be competing for that spot. I don't understand how Perisic gets in ahead of him. That right hand side, he cannot be playing on that right hand side. I say this all the time on my stream. I say he's not good at that right hand side. We don't get the best out of him on the right hand side. He doesn't take on his man. He doesn't get crosses in. All he does is just pass back on the right hand side because it's not his position. On the left hand side, I believe he is much more capable of taking on his man, sprinting against players. potentially putting in a good cross, having his a finesse shot. I think when Tottenham Hotspur, they do this all the time. They play players out of position, and it's just so frustrating. There are players that I believe should be played sort of out of position, such as Sonny on the striker position, but players like Manuel Solomon, who's still developing. There's no reason why you shouldn't be putting him, maybe ahead of Perisic in a team. I believe so, at least.
Yeah, that's the thing. But the question is, Josh, like, if we've signed him and he's not good enough at the moment to get in ahead of Perisic, then is he like, why did we sign him? Why not spend that space and sign someone a bit higher quality?
I think you answered it beforehand. He's a free transfer. He's a free transfer. I mean, he is quality. No, he is quality at the end of the day. When he comes onto the pitch, he does show glimpses of quality. But the reason why I believe we bought him, I think, and I'm going to say it's the future. I think we put him in there as well as potentially a Sonny replacement in the future. Who knows? He's young. He's got a massive future ahead of himself. If he can play like this against the likes of, when he comes on for us, I don't know if he came on against United, but against Premier League teams, if he can come up and do a little bit tricks in like 10 minutes towards the end of the matches, he's definitely got a bright future. I do believe though that if we were to pay for him, for example, 20-25 mil, then I would be questioning this very, very much. I'd be like, okay, this is a bit not okay from Ange Postecoglou, because this is an
Hold
Ange
the phone.
Hold up, Josh.
Hold the line.
We've got a tweet from Fabrizio Romano just now.
Bang.
Brennan Johnson to Tottenham. Here we go. Agreement reached now with Nottingham Forest on in excess of 40 million with add-ons included. Total package up to 45 million pounds. Brennan on his way to Tottenham for medical tests right now. Priority target signed for Tottenham. So Brennan Johnson seems to be signed, sealed and delivered. Josh, you had your reservations on Brennan Johnson. Now he's signed, sealed and delivered. You seem very happy, so run me through your thoughts.
I'm gassed right now. I mean, yes, 50 mil, and I'm gonna sound controversial. It's 50 mil. I'm livid on that 50 mil. But for the quality of player, it brings competition in. It's a here we go for Fabrizio. I'm backing the player now. He's a Tottenham player. You have to back him. Come on, the boys.
Love it. And I'm very, very excited about this signing. I think he's going to bring sheer pace to that right-hand side. He's going to give a different option to us, to options that we already have, like Kulusevski and Heung-min Son. And I think he's going to be a top signing for us. I think it might give him time. We need to give him time to bed into the squad and show his real qualities. But I'm very excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait to see him in a Spurs shirt. I think having one of the fastest players in the Premier League is a quality that we're severely lacking, especially in our front line as well. That's that sheer pace that we don't have. Going to give us more options. Can't wait. He's coming down for a medical now in London. So let's get this one done.
Yeah, it seems as though...
All I can hear is goals. I can hear goals from Brennan Johnson now. Now goals and assists. That's what I can hear now.
Exactly. I'm just hearing the ball hit the back of the net.
And you know what? Exactly. Like when you talk about Brennan Johnson, we're getting this signing in now. His debut most likely is going to come against Sheffield United, but straight after Sheffield United, we play Arsenal. Arsenal obviously play a very high line, especially at the Emirates. How much of a good tool is he going to be in that game?
You asking me or Josh? Sorry.
Either.
I personally think he's gonna be. No, I don't think he's going to start, but he's going to be a massive super sub. It's going to rattle that right back from Sheffield United. I think that against Arsenal as well, if he does play versus Arsenal, we're going to be adding pace to this team. And I think when we talk about the front line, the missing piece of this is the pace. In my opinion, I think Kulusevski is the maybe not ahead of Son, but is the best dribbler in front of those in the front three. And I think with Brennan Johnson now, it's unbelievable pace now added to the front line. And what I'm interested in now, which is going to be super interesting, is the fact that when we get corners, kicked out, when we're trying to defend corners, I'm going to be interested to see how Brennan Johnson just drives against that defense. Run as fast as possible, because he's got the pace. And like Wolfie said, he's got the finishing. So, treble incoming. Come on, the boys.
Josh, we've seen here we go now. First, here we go of transfer deadline day for Tottenham Hotspur. How many more do you think are coming in before 11 o'clock tonight?
I see one more. I see one more. But I think there's going to be outgoings. But I see one more. Hopefully not in the region of 50 mil. Hopefully not. But I
Why
see
not?
potential.
Why
The more
not?
money we spend, the better, Josh. Why not?
If it's Mbappe or Messi, fine, fair enough. I'll spend 50 mil for them. Nah, but I think we got to be very, very careful with the money we spend. Obviously we got the Harry Kane money, but 50 mil. Hopefully Brennan Johnson can prove his worth, and I'm excited for Tottenham. I'm excited, lads. Let's go.
And just before we let you go, Josh, talk to me about the Burnley game this weekend. How do you see the game playing out, and what's your score predictions?
Wow, okay, so I'm predicting a 3-0, straight away 3-0. I think we've got immense quality ahead of Burnley. I think the team will want to prove to us something. I feel so bad for the fans that went out there for the Fulham game. That's such a shame. So the Tottenham players will want to literally demolish Burnley. I am right now hyped up for that transfer, so that's a bit of a rude question to ask me right now. But I think Bissouma is going to have a great game. I think Madders is going to contribute. Richarlison is not scoring. He's not scoring. He is not going to score. But hopefully a little debut goal for Brennan Johnson. Hopefully. Maybe we can see something.
I think he's going to sign a bit too late for the deadline. I think deadline was midday today. If he could play this weekend,
is he not eligible to play?
I don't think so, no.
Because he has to sign by midday, I believe, yeah.
All right, so I mean, I'm still sticking with a 3-0. I'm still sticking with that, but I think I'm still sticking. Kulusevski, Richarlison, and Son obviously up front. I'm hoping that they can bag in some goals. And look, it's gonna be a very, very, very difficult game for Burnley, and they got to counter us. Let's just say it like that. That's the only way they can win. I see, by countering us. They're not gonna be able to hold possession against us, but it's gonna be a fantastic game from Tottenham fans. Come on, the boys.
Come on.
What's just quickly before you go, what's your prediction for Brennan Johnson? How many goal contributions is he getting this season?
I want to go for 6 goals, and let's go for 4 assists. I don't know. I'm just sticking out there. 6 goals
10
and
goal
4
contributions.
Assists. Yeah, 10 goal contributions. It'll be a good. Yeah, I guess ish. Yeah, can we agree on that?
All right,
Big
Josh, go on.
No.
Thank you so much for coming on today, my brother, and we'll speak to you next time.
Come on, you Spurs. Great speaking to you. Come on, I'm the boys.
Very excited, Josh, there for the new signing, Brennan Johnson.
So we have a here we go, and also
Finally.
the price as well, 40 million plus add-on for 45
million,
45 million total package, which is less than what we expected. So it's a fairly it's not as bad as 50 million. I guess it's only 5 million short if you include the add-ons, but I think that price is fairly respectable in terms of the player we're getting. So I think it's very exciting.
It depends what those 5 millions in add-ons actually are, what the add-ons are, but I mean, you're knocking 5 million off the original price tag. I still think it's probably a bit excessive in terms of what we're paying. I think you're probably looking at, all in all, I think a signing like this you should be getting for like 30, 35 million.
Palmer just went for the same price.
Yeah, I know, but that was also an overpayment.
I know, but this is not as much an overpayment as that, I guess.
I think like I said, I think realistically, if the market wasn't so screwed as it is, you're probably looking at a 30 to 35 million player. But in this current market, you can't really complain when you're signing these kind of players for 40, 45 million. I don't really care how much we're paying. I'm just happy we're getting Andrew's target through the door at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so.
and 100% he can play, as you say, on the right. We've got another option there now. I think it's going to be good for getting to the byline and getting cutbacks. I think it's going to add a bit more, hopefully more finishing ability. I think he's still a bit raw, so I think what Wolfie said is right. I think the Forest fans were very patient with him and allowed him time to develop, and coming with a price tag like 45 million, I think maybe people are going to want to expect big things from him straight away, aren't they? So I think it's important not to put too much pressure, and if maybe he has a bit of trouble for the first season, not get on his back too much and just think he's a waste of money and stuff like that. But I think, especially for the long term, I think we've got a very good player on our hands, and I think his ceiling is very high. I really do. Yeah. I think to be getting the goal contributions he is at his age is impressive.
I think it's important what you're saying in terms of patience. the call for patience. And I don't think that just relies on Brennan Johnson, but that goes for Ange Postecoglou and the whole team right now, because we're very much, as Ange keeps saying, the infancy of what he's trying to do. So I think a lot of patience is going to be needed from the board, from the fans, from everyone involved to really support Ange through this process. So let's move on and let's go to our next caller, and it's the Jory call. Looking very serious today, Jory. How you doing, Jory?
Yeah. Hey guys. Hey. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm good. I'm all right. I'm looking forward to being done with this transfer window. That's for sure.
Talk to me about Brennan Johnson. We got the first here we go of the last day of the transfer window. Talk me through your thoughts of the signing.
Yeah, I hate to rain on the parade here, but I have to remind people this is Daniel Levy's answer for the Kane exit, and we're paying 45 million for a 25 million player, that needs development, which our fans won't have patience for. So I'm not super excited, to be honest. I know that I do agree with you guys. He's got a lot of potential. I think 2 years from now he will be paying off big time, but I don't think we will be doing this project 2 years from now.
Jory,
so,
why is that? Why do you think that he is only a 25 million pound player? What have you seen from him in a Forest shirt that tells you, he might not do that well at Spurs in the next year or so?
I'm not a particular expert on Johnson or anything. I've just, in general, I haven't seen anything about the Forest attacking that's 50 plus. They do. They're a fun team for sure, and Steve Cooper has some fun ideas how to do the game. But in general, they are where they are because they are what they are. So we're replacing maybe the best striker in the world with a bottom of the league striker. That's it, basically. Or forward player.
Yeah, look, and I know the narrative will be peddled by, and especially rival fans and stuff. If Johnson is struggling, they're going to be saying, "Oh, you replaced Kane with Johnson, and look how he's doing. He's struggling. He's not getting the goals. He's no Harry Kane." And that is just something where I guess we're going to have to put up with. But I don't like. I see it in a different way to that. Like I just see it as we're improving the forward line. Hopefully, like in terms of qualities and profile, in terms of threats that we have, not necessarily replacing like for like. And I think the narrative, as much as that narrative will be peddled, I just don't think that narrative is right.
No, but I'll tell you, Sim, I think you, Ben, and the rest, all of us Spurs fans, we have a tendency to act like a wife that's under constant domestic abuse and beatings, and whenever the guy doesn't beat us, we're grateful, Oh, what a lovely night. It was beautiful, This is like Levy has lowered the bar once again because we were all thinking it would all go bad because of his, endless incompetence and stinginess. And now we get one in, then we're grateful, we're happy. But, for me, for example, the Ansu thing said it all really for me, and if Levy was reading the room in any way, it should have been and would have had to be a Vlahovic level signing, and it's not going to be that. And I know that Hans is a stat guy, so I love that thing that we're signing players like that's going under the radar and stuff like that. But where are these super prospects with the CBs? And we need more fullbacks as well. Where's all of that? None of that is happening. Now we're basically just taking whatever is left over on the shelf of homegrown players. In my view, this is not a good window. I'm sorry, guys. It's a terrible window, to be honest. And has done great things. We have a good first 11, maybe even a great first 11 once Ans gets into it. I just don't think, after seeing the reaction to the Fulham game, and also after seeing Ans either lack of balls towards the board or naivety, we won't get anywhere close to completing this project. That's my. I'm convinced of that, you know. So.
But when you're
Yeah.
looking at players that can come in and compete with Kulusevski on that right hand side, currently we had nobody. Nobody is a natural fit on that right hand side. Obviously, as the number 9 slot, you've got Richarlison there. Obviously, he's having a very bad time of it at the moment. You've got Heung-min Son, who could also play there, who I think will actually end up playing number 9 at some point this season. So who would you would like to bring in on the right hand side?
You could let Richie compete for all of those spots again, like he did last season, and have Sonny as your starting striker, which I do think it should be like that. That's a matter of time, I think. But I do think. I mean, remember also, guys, Richie is also a Kane backup, you know, a Kane signing, and you can see what we ended up with there, you know. And I was. You know, I was not convinced. I was actually fairly skeptical when we signed him, but I didn't want to, you know, be, destroy the parade before it happens, you know. But it's basically turned out like I expected. He's a fragile
That's
ego.
why we call you the Joracle.
Yes. Unfortunately, like always, the negative prospects always go through. But anyway, so I do. I'm happy with the competition. I'm not knocking Johnson Brennan. I hope he will turn out for us. I certainly believe that Ants is an awesome coach for these kind of talents. You know, so my only thing is like he won't come good right away. And then we don't have Richie. And then people remember, oh yeah, we sold Kane and now we have this. And like the fan base, like I think with this window as it is now, Ants won't have the tools to satisfy the fans, and he will be out before the season is ended. So that's my fear now, because we have a gaping hole in our defense, you know, and we know Romero is going to be out for some time and so on, you know. So, you know, we're very incomplete, and we have how many hours left?
Yeah, for a few hours left. There's even talk again. I'm just reading now. Gary Jacobs saying that Spurs are set to increase their offer of 20 million for Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth. Obviously, that's another name. I'm sure that's going to be uninspiring. But when you look at someone like Lloyd Kelly, yes, you know, coming from Bournemouth, 24 years of age, hasn't exactly been a household name in the Premier League since he's come in. But do you reckon maybe we could potentially be underestimating some of these players? We've seen like Arsenal have a lot of joy with some young English players who maybe people underestimated and they've made into a lot better players. And maybe if we do have like a young English centre back like Lloyd Kelly who maybe has the right profile, could we be maybe judging these kind of deals too early?
Yeah, well, the thing is, we have the guy that can turn these kind of pieces of coal into diamonds, you know. But what the problem that we're facing now, guys, is that we need immediate reaction. We need to be in and around winning the FA Cup, like fan-wise. We definitely need that. And if we don't get some ready-made, some ready to go, like a Madison. Madison was that kind of a signing. If we don't get, you know, I would have said 2 more signings of that caliber. The project won't last the English press and fan onslaught. You know, that's like we've had much more high-level managers and much more kind of serious campaigns for winning stuff before this, and even those campaigns they run into trouble within a couple of months, you know. So I'm this is what I'm worried about, guys, is that Ants is now even for a project is going to be needing more time than normal to get his stuff working. I'm not worried about Brennan Johnson in I'm happy with that. I'm not happy that that's our forward option after we sell Kane. I'm not happy that we're paying 20 million over what he should be evaluated at. But mostly, I'm scared shitless that we don't have any Van de Ven level centre backs as backup, and we are full backs as well. We only have 2 that are up for this system. So.
Yeah, that is a worry. I have to say that the back line, especially the depth in the back line, we saw on Tuesday night that it's just lacking, isn't it? When they have to come in and do a job for the team, and it was just so stark how much better Van de Ven was compared to everyone else in that back line as well.
Absolutely.
And just like the difference in quality was like night and day. In terms of one other deal potentially happening, Conor Gallagher, obviously very dependent on Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg going out the door. Is that one you'd be more positive about if that was to come off?
I mean, if Hans wants it, sure, I'm happy with it. But I don't really see Gallagher as an upgrade from Pierre, to be honest. I mean, I think as we know, if you need a destroyer, there's few better than him in Europe, to be honest, But that's not really what we're about right now. But still, for some games, maybe that's exactly what's needed, So I don't know. I mean, I don't see what Gallagher is coming in with. That's an addition to what we already have, other than being homegrown, really. Maybe Ant sees some potential to develop some side of his game. I mean, let's hope so. I mean, I truly trust in Ant in this way, and I do think, like, for example, the Bazoom and Matasan, like, there's been a lot of great recruitment lately. It's not really the recruitment I'm pissed about. It's effing Levy's negotiation once again. Get these guys out on a penny. It doesn't matter. Why are these guys not out like a month ago? And why are we not picking through 4 or 5 options instead of scrambling to the phone and getting whatever is available for a couple of pounds over the market price anyway. So for me, it's a disaster. Like, this is the truth about effing Daniel Levy is. It's no matter what paradigm we adapt, there's no success to be had with Levy unless Munn comes in and completely gets Levy out of everything that's football related. It's never going to happen. But let's just entertain the idea. Unless that happens, we won't have success in any paradigm. And I mean on the success on the basis of what it is. That is to say, handball needs to be fun, progressive, modern, and all of that. And we don't worry too much about winning anything right away, at least. We won't even have that kind of success with Levy meddling in our windows, and meddling in the lineups and so on, So, yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could be more optimistic about it, but
everyone has their own opinions, and each one is.
When I see his hand so clearly and so overhanded and rough and idiotic as always, I really get riled up, But I still have faith in the first 11. I still have faith in Ant in terms of entertaining us. But then it's just a constant disappointment seeing Levy always finding a way to fuck it up, and any which way. It doesn't matter what we try. He's like the stupid kid that doesn't get it ever. And I'm sorry, he's not a brilliant businessman. He's not anything. He's a stingy bean counter and a loser, and we're a loser club because he owns us, and that pisses me off. I'm sorry, Sim, has to be said. So.
Well, I mean, if he was that stingy, maybe he wouldn't have overpaid for Brennan. But I think we have paid a lot of money for him.
That's the incompetence side of it. He knows he needs to do something. He can. I mean, he needs to survive as well. And that's the incompetence. That's what we've always overpaid. All our big signings have been disappointing. Even Richarlison, the latest one, is an overpayment. So that's what we always do. It's like you said, Sim. If you buy twice, you pay too much. That's what we're always going for an angle. It's not. It's like, oh, really, Levy? Are you seeing something that the rest of the football world doesn't see, and now you get one over? No, it doesn't work like that. They do their due diligence. So happens that we don't do our due diligence till late. Maybe now we do, but we haven't done historically. And we're not going to be doing something absolutely amazing. We once in a while look into something like a Sonny, and that's great, But we are not outperforming anybody in recruitment. I can mention small Danish clubs that completely outperform us in recruiting. We need to decide on a paradigm and go with that. And that means also leaving the negotiation to a team that's used to working on these levels. So now we're stat-based. Now we're Moneyball based. Then we need people who can do Moneyball deals. Levy can't do that kind of a deal. He can't do superstar deals. He can't do any deals without fucking up. Either we don't get them in, even though they're cheap, or we overpay for the guys that everybody else stay away from. So I'm sorry, guys. I hope Brennan's not going to be that kind of guy, and I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about our defense. Nothing's happening there, and if we go into the season like this, Ants won't survive the season, unfortunately.
All right, Jory, always good to speak to you, my friend.
Is it good to speak to me?
It's always good to speak to you. It's always good to get your opinions because I value your opinions, mate. But look, I disagree on Brennan, but we'll see how it plays out. I think it's a good signing.
Listen, Sim, I'm sure you know more than me by far. I'm sure it's going to be exactly the kind of project, the prospect that you see him as, and Ben as well. But what I'm saying is he's going to need time, and we're going to have a fan base that needs an answer to the Kane departure, and he's not that answer, So, for me, it should have been Vlahovic, to be honest, but it's not going to happen. So, anyway, take care and big up and great show as always.
Cheers, Jory. We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
All right. Couple of little updates. So we'll give you. It's not great updates, unfortunately. Charlie Eccleshare saying Hojbjerg is not keen on the Fulham move. Interesting to see now if someone else comes in for him. Spurs have been happy for a sell since pretty much the start of the window. Atletico Madrid have held an interest. Gary Jacobs says Atletico unlikely on Hojbjerg at present. Gallagher now more complicated. So we'll keep you updated. So the latest news on the Gallagher deal does seem a bit negative. It seems that Hojbjerg is holding up. Nizar Kinsella says Tottenham are still trying to sign Conor Gallagher. Chelsea seem open to cashing in on him, but one close to 50 million. Anything still feels possible for the midfielder. I'm sure it does, but it sounds like this is very dependent on PM or Hojbjerg getting out the door, and whether if that doesn't happen, I don't think this Conor Gallagher deal happens.
Yeah, and I think that only happens if an Atletico bid comes in. Pretty much. I don't think he's going to end up going to Fulham. So I think we're very much reliant on Atletico stumping up the cash if we want to bring in Conor Gallagher.
Yeah, it's very frustrating at the moment. Let's hope there is some movement very soon, because look, the time is ticking, and if there's no movement soon, then they're going to run out of time to complete this deal. So very frustrating at the moment.
I guess the good thing about it is he only has to travel across London.
That's
he doesn't
also
have to
true.
come from anywhere else.
So maybe it can go down to the wire.
But Pierre has to go to Spain.
That's also true. That's also true.
So let's go on to our next guest, and it's Michael. How you doing, Michael? Are you on mute?
Is he doing? He's doing the press again.
He's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't hear him. No.
How about now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, Wilson. Sorry. Yeah, it's well. As you know, I'm not really a big fan of Brennan Johnson.
Come on,
And
Michael, get excited. It's a new signing, one of the fastest players in the Premier League, 22 years of age.
Yeah, that's where the good.
Get on the
sides-
train.
Get on the train, all aboard.
No, like in all honesty, right? And I've said it plenty. I don't have anything against Brennan Johnson, right? And I actually think he has his own set of really good qualities. I just don't feel like we will utilize those qualities well in our team. And listen, I know I'm just like a guy sitting in front of a PC. That's just my opinion. We have like a whole host of experts on in that field that deemed that Brennan Johnson is suitable, right? So of course I'm gonna back him. Of course, like he's our player now, unless something mad happens, right? So I guess he's our player. Our player now. I will back him. I will wish that he scores. I just have my concerns. I'm like I hope that it works out. Let's put it that way, right? But that hope
What are your
is not-
main concerns about Brennan Johnson, Michael?
I think, and it's also like backed by what Wolfie, I think his name was the guy from that you spoke with, right? I just have a feeling we are really based on like technical plays, build up, slow build up with passes, etc., etc. And I think that his best quality, Brennan Johnson's best quality, is playing, utilizing his pace, his eye for a goal. And I just feel like he will be a bit lost whenever a team did like low blocks against us. I don't think listen, I hope I'm wrong, right? But I think that he isn't really like a technical player to break a low block down. And I feel like majority of games that we will play this season will most likely be maybe not majority, but a good chunk of games that we play this season would be against opponents low blocking, right? So I just have like this strange feeling that also like because of the price tag and because of the him being homegrown, from UK, etc. I just feel like there will be plenty of people who put such a high like expectation on him that after he doesn't score, let's say in his first 3 games, like people will be on his back just like they are with Richarlison. Richarlison rightfully so because he is like performing poorly. I think this fan base is so like tilted that I'm not sure that Brennan Johnson was something to calm them down. Like I know I'm jumping like from one thing to another. It's just hard for me to like put it well.
But Michael, isn't what you're saying a good thing for Spurs to have in the squad, because it means that we've got players that can play against different kind of systems. You've got Kulusevski that could potentially play against teams that set up in a low block and put many men behind the ball. And then when you play against your Arsenals, your Man Cities and these kind of teams that are going to take the game to us and play really high up the field, you can have Brennan Johnson who can really burn them down and beat that line. So you've got different players that can play against different systems.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. Like that's one shining light. But yeah, maybe because maybe I'm looking at it from a wrong point of view, because we played 3 games so far, right? And all 3 games were majority led by us, I would say. I know that Manchester United and Bournemouth pressed us and they were aggressive on the ball, but still I think we were the dominating side, and we for bigger parts of that game we were the attacking side. So I'm looking at our future games maybe from that point of view. And yes, I guess you are right in the sense that when we play against I don't know, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, Arsenal both games, City both games, Liverpool both games, then I guess we will be able to utilize his strong sides, Brennan Johnson's, right? It's just that was just my concern. That again, I don't think he's a bad player. I actually think he is quite good. It's just that I am concerned whether we will be able to use him enough. Let's put it that way. it's basically it, right? And also the price tag is a bit big for me. I know it's not my money. I shouldn't be concerned about the like how much money we spent, right? I just feel like I just feel like there were better targets than Brennan Johnson, in my opinion.
Like who? Who would you have preferred to see come in?
So maybe I'm looking at it also from point like we are talking about Gallagher. I know this might not happen, right? But the Gallagher deal is rumored about like 40 to 45. Brennan Johnson is 45 now with add-ons, right? And the Lloyd Kelly guy from Bournemouth. I would much rather like join the fees for Brennan Johnson, and I know this might not be realistic, but I would rather join the Brennan Johnson and Gallagher fee and go for someone like Eze, who I think fits this team better and provides us more coverage in the attacking positions, and go for Tosin Adrabaya. That's like a center back and a forward player for pretty much the same money as we would spend on Lloyd Kelly, Johnson, and Gallagher. And honestly, I would rather prefer promoting a kid from the academy. At that point, we fill the homegrown quota the same way. Like the two players I mentioned are also homegrown, like the three that we are rumored that we are linked with. So yeah, it's. But listen, I trust our club. I trust Ange to make it work, right? It's just my like little concerns that I have. I'm not going to be like so distraught. I'm more pissed off with the outgoings, honestly, boys. Like, but we all are, right? So.
Yeah, Pierre Hojbjerg at the moment, his transfer seems to be holding up any potential deal for Conor Gallagher, with him not interested in going to Fulham, and apparently Atletico Madrid now seems a complicated deal to do at this point. How do you see this playing out? Do you see him leaving before the end of the window, or do you think that's gonna be the sticking point, denying Gallagher coming to Spurs?
I think we will try to push him out, and the reason why I say this is because, like, throughout the whole summer, we were getting reports that he doesn't really want to be here anymore, that he wants a new challenge, new move, whatever. So I feel like maybe right now he's withstanding the Fulham move because he's waiting for other clubs to maybe get interested. But so far it's only, I think, Galatasaray and Fulham and Atletico. But the Atletico deal, as you said, Sim, is like it's not progressing. So I feel like Hojbjerg is just waiting for a better chance than Fulham, with all due respect to Fulham, of course. But yeah, I feel like we will try to, like, he will try to push himself out when the deadline comes closer. I feel like we will sell or loan one of the Dyer or Tanganga. I think one of them will go.
Tanganga is pretty much done.
Sorry, I meant Sanchez or Dyer.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Sanchez or Dyer, I think one of them will go. Then we'll bring in a center back in their place. And I wish we got rid of Tanguy and Ndombele, but like it doesn't seem that like we can structure a deal anywhere, right? Because either the team won't pay enough of his wages, or we aren't satisfied with the fee, or he is not satisfied with the destination. So it's just one big like cock up with.
I mean, Michael, the Saudi window is still open for 3 more weeks, so maybe we can still push him out that way.
I hope that someone takes it, right? I hope that some Saudi team takes him off our wage bill. And yeah, I guess other than that, I guess we got rid of. I mean, no doubt, Spence, Reguilon, Rodon, Tanganga, and who else is there to pretty much get rid of?
Hopefully, Lloris will have his contract terminated.
Lloris, I think they will terminate his contract after the window ends, right? So yeah, I just wish that we did something permanent, and maybe I am like that's in terms of like outgoings, and in terms of incomings. With the context of us selling Kane, I kind of expected like one signing to wow me, if you know, like Eze, I would be like, fuck me, we got Eze, right?
Yeah, but Michael, if we had signed Maddison on deadline day, that probably would have wowed you.
That's true, right? It's really stupid because it's mostly about the timing, right, of the signing. Maddison really early, and so like I'm kind of done with being hyped about that signing. And then we sold him, right? So after the Kane sale, I was like waiting to get like wowed by something. And honestly, like Johnson, I'm okay with it. I will stomach it. I have my concerns, but it's not a signing that excites me that much, right? I wish we brought in someone like Eze or I don't know, Vlahovic. Like I know Vlahovic wouldn't happen, but just as an example of a player, right? With his status, with his potential, etc. Right? I feel like I would be more excited by those type of signings than Brennan Johnson. But as I said, I will completely back the guy. He's our player now, so yeah, like I have to live with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've not long left to go of the window now. I mean, are you expecting any more in, or do you think that's our business done now?
I think, as I said, I think we will get either Sanchez or Dyer out somehow. I don't know how, but I think one of them will go, and we will bring in centre back in. I just really fear it will be Lloyd Kelly. Like I'm completely not like excited at all by that signing. Right? I didn't even know that he played against us when we played Bournemouth. That's like. With all due respect to the guy, maybe he's like really nice, whatever, right? But as a footballer, I'm totally like let down by that sign. But if that signing happens, I will be let down. I would kill for Tosin Adebayo. Seriously, like he's so much more refined.
This is how starved we are as a fan base. If you want to kill for Tosin Adebayo.
Exactly, right? I would much rather have Tosin, and he's also homegrown Tosin, right? So
yeah,
like unless he really doesn't want us, right? Because there were reports that he doesn't really want to join Tottenham. Unless he just is blocking the move, then I don't get why we are not trying to get Tosin instead of Lloyd Kelly. That's it pretty much, right?
Yeah. And in terms of the game this weekend, how are you looking at the game? How do you think it's going to play out, and what's your score prediction?
So I was kind of surprised with Burnley. I expected them to play like aggressive, like pressing, and I kind of got that. I just thought they are a bit. I thought they will be a bit better. I've been a bit underwhelmed, although like the opposition wasn't easy, right? They played against Villa and Manchester City. Those are not easy games to play. But I would kind of expect a similar outcome as like it happened with Villa and City, so that the game would actually be like they will threaten us on a couple of occasions, in my opinion. I don't think they will just sit behind a double guard and just waiting to get punched. I think they will throw punches themselves. I just feel like we have a better quality team. I don't think that's something outrageous to say, and I think that will like point out their mistakes. And I would expect something along the lines of 2-0. I think 2-0 or 3-1, something like that. Might be.
All right. Michael, thank you so much for coming on today, my friend. Hopefully we'll have some more signings through the door next time we do speak, but we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you, boys. Bye-bye.
David Ornstein has been speaking on Twitter, and he says a correction to the Brennan Johnson deal. It's actually 47.5 million fixed fee with no add-ons whatsoever.
And a 10% sell-on clause, he says.
And a 10%. So we were really kind of going the full length to bring this guy in, aren't we?
10% sell-on clause and a fixed fee of 47.5 million. Yeah, it is definitely an expensive deal. Definitely not cheap. But interesting that we accepted that, because I think usually when we sell a player, we don't, especially when you're signing for such big money, you don't want to put a big sell-on clause in if you want to sell him for big money. But it seems as though we've been making some compromises with this one.
Yeah, I think that the way you got to assess it is that Spurs were desperate, I guess, at this stage of the window. So they know if they failed to get Brennan Johnson they probably wouldn't have got anyone else in that position. So they had to do the deal, I guess.
They had to do it because there would have been uproar if we don't sign him.
I mean, there's uproar because we have signed him. But look, I think if we didn't sign him, there would have been a massive uproar of not backing Ange and getting his targets in. So I think they had to do the deal. I think they were between a rock and a hard place, to be honest. And Forest knew that.
Yeah, I think people are underestimating him, how good he can be. I think, in my opinion, I think people just forget how young he is. I do agree. Like, if you're just basing it on the money and where he is as a player right now in his career, is it something that's gonna, really move the needle for Tottenham this season? Maybe not. And he's not going to come in and replace the goals Kane gives us and stuff like that. But I really do believe that he is a player who has a really high ceiling. He's already shown in his career his ability to be getting goals on a regular basis in the Championship and in the Premier League and at international level. He's been pretty good at international level as well, and he's still 22. So yes, if you're looking at spending the Kane money and getting in a player to replace Kane, you're going to be left disappointed. But if you take it for what it is, I think it's an exciting deal.
But you look at some of the business that's being done around the Premier League at the moment. A lot of teams are buying potential. They're not buying, the ready-made article of what they've seen. They're buying it on what they can be. You look at Cole Palmer, 3 Premier League starts, 3 Premier League starts, and he's gone for 45 million. You look at Rasmus Højlund, what's he got, like 8 career goals or something in a top league, and he's gone for 75 million.
Yeah.
You've got so many deals right now where you're looking at it and you'll be like, look, he's not worth that money right now, but there is a potential for him to be worth that money a year or two down the line. So I think you're seeing the landscape change a bit in that sort of sense, and in terms of what teams, especially English clubs, are willing to pay for potential.
Definitely. And yeah, as you say, Johnson got more goals than Højlund did, last season, didn't he? So pretty much similar amount. So, and that's how much money these young players are going for. And sometimes you just got to bite the bullet to get ahead of the game, don't you? And get a player before he becomes a £100 million player. So look, I'm excited about this deal. I really think it adds something to our team as well, and he gives us different options. So I think it's something to be excited about. And everyone who, I've spoken to, I know a few Wales fans as well, and obviously we've spoken to Forest fans, and they all seem to think that we've got a good deal and we've got a really good player. But people from the outside are a bit more sceptical.
Mainly the people within the Spurs fan base, to be honest, are the sceptical ones. But you look at it and you compare it to the deal that Ansu Fati for Brighton, and I think when these two names broke together, everyone would prefer, or the people that are sceptical about Brennan Johnson would prefer Ansu Fati through the door. And has something happened?
Potentially. Paul O'Keefe has just tweeted saying, Atletico currently deciding on a loan bid for Hojbjerg with an obligation to buy. Tottenham are awaiting confirmation soon. So things might be moving of Hojbjerg potentially, which would be a very good move.
That's good, because I was very sceptical of anything like this happening at this stage of the window. So let's hope something can happen, because it's a deal that needs to get done, because Hojbjerg don't want to be here no more. We've got another target that we want to get in. Not Fulham. I think he would suit Atletico really well, and I think Conor Gallagher will suit us well. So I think it's a move that can suit all parties. But back to what I was saying in terms of when you're kind of comparing Ansu Fati and Brennan Johnson. Ansu Fati obviously has got a big future ahead of him, and he was the heir to Messi's throne and everything like that. But it hasn't really panned out that way for Ansu, and I feel like people, when they're comparing Ansu and Brennan, they're looking at Ansu saying, a few years ago, he was hyped as the next big thing to come out of Barcelona. Brennan Johnson's just, someone with a big future at Nottingham Forest. And I kind of feel like if Brennan was the one at Barcelona, or if Brennan was the one at Man City, everyone would be like, oh, get Brennan in. Because he's at Nottingham Forest, people are just like, oh, we're just buying a Nottingham Forest player.
Exactly. So I think people should be more on board with the deal, and I just think as well, in terms of what we need in our squad, he is like the right profile. And we've seen players who go from clubs like Forest and then they make the step up, and all of a sudden with better players around them, they become better players themselves. So I just think that it's a very promising deal for me, and I think hopefully he can provide something different to our attack, which we don't currently have, and it's just going to make us more unpredictable.
And in terms of Ansu Fati as well, he was playing in Barcelona, who are a heavily dominant team in the league, one of the best teams. They won the league last year, right? Barcelona. Mm-hmm. He played 36 games for Barcelona last year, scoring 7 goals, getting 3 assists. Brennan Johnson played in a team that was battling relegation in the Premier League for the majority of last season, and got a better output than that.
Yeah. So
I mean,
quality.
Exactly. So anyway, let's get on to a few super chats before we bring on our next guest. Enrico Rodrigo says, is Dyer deluded? Wants Europe next year? Joke. Paul Calderoy says, not signing a class centre-back will be criminal. And I agree. We need to bring in a centre-back desperately before the end of the window. Tom Edgell saying, welcome to Gold. So welcome to the family. And Scorpion Fan for Life saying, Brennan is our plan to target homegrown talent, and looking at price, think about added tax for English players and what other young players are going for. And I completely agree with that. You're looking at the landscape of the transfer window this year. I mean, it's not that much of an overpayment, is it?
I don't think so. And as we've said, we've compared it to deals like Anthony Gordon and Cole Palmer. And when you compare this deal to those kind of deals, like, I don't think it's a massive overpayment. If anything, we've gotten the better deal, in my opinion, for what those players have shown up until that point of their signing, and what Brennan Johnson has shown. And you got to remember as well, in the Championship, he was absolutely getting bucket loads of. He got one season at 20 years of age. He got 26 goal contributions in the Championship, and I don't know what the level of the Championship is right now. I don't see many players that age doing that well right now. So I think that goes to show his quality. And I think, yes, it wasn't the easiest time for him in the Premier League, but he still contributed really well, and he got better as the season went on, and he adapted. And what Wolfie was saying is he's a really good learner as well. And I'm sure he's going to get better. What we're signing is not going to be who he's going to be throughout his whole time at Tottenham. He's going to improve as a player, and especially under Ange. We've already seen under Ange how different players are improving. Look at Basuma, is like a completely new player. Like, we've just seen the change in a lot of our players already in this new system, and that just is evident in itself, how a system can change what players can produce. So you just got to bank on that.
And like I said before in the call with Michael, you know, like, different players can provide different threats to different teams. And if we've got, you know, tools in our armory that can provide different sorts of threats, like Kulusevski and Brennan Johnson provide completely different threats from the right-hand side. So you can tailor-made your tactics for the team that you're playing on. And if we don't have Brennan Johnson, we can't do that. So I think it's a really good signing. Let's get the next caller on. He goes by the name of Mikey, and let's see what his opinions are. Hey, Mikey, guys. You all right?
Yeah, I've been had my phone on, constantly keeping up with all the deadline day moves, not just Spurs, just all the clubs in general. So it's been a hectic day for me so far.
Yeah, so a hectic day for all of us, to be honest. I mean, we've already been going live for 2.5 hours. But talk to me your feelings about the Brennan Johnson signing. There's been a lot of mixed reaction coming out the Spurs fan base, but what is your reaction?
My reaction is probably more positive than perhaps the Joracle and even I forget his name, but the first guy as well. I think
Michael.
I'm a little bit, yes, I'm a little bit more positive on it because I think the way that our signings have looked this summer, you know, far be it from me to even mention something so heinous, but it looks like there's been a pattern to them. Who'd have guessed that? And I think Brennan Johnson is kind of one of those that fits into that pattern. Buying younger, obviously James Maddison was a necessity, but buying sort of younger-ish players to try and kind of push us forward, Belief, Phillips, Vicario, Van der Ven, these signings sort of indicate a desire to build for a future under a new identity, and I think Brennan Johnson could definitely be that towards the future as well. I think the price is a bit staggering, but we're in a market where Cole Palmer costs 40 million, Rasmus Højlund costs 70 million, and you know, outside of the truly elite players, it seems like, and in a world where Richarlison costs 60 million, so 47.5 million pounds for Brennan Johnson might not be such an overpay when you look at the market itself.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think maybe people are looking at Brennan Johnson's like goal tally last season, you know, 8 goals, and thinking, you know, and they're in their mind thinking we've sold Harry Kane, who scored 30 goals last season, and now we're bringing a forward like Brennan Johnson, you know, who didn't get that many and isn't maybe as good as Harry Kane, and that's what they're judging this signing on, rather than just seeing it as a forward to improve the squad.
I think a lot of people are still, I mean, and rightly so, because it's only been 3 games. I think we're all still kind of used to it where one or two players get a large concentration of our goals. Last season it was Kane, season before it was Kane and Son, and it hasn't really been since maybe when we had a fit and firing sort of Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen, Son and Kane attack where we've actually been able to share the goals around. It looks like it's not one singular outlet for 20 plus goals. It looks like those might be shared around, for example, maybe a 7-8 goal season for Maddison, maybe a 10 goal season for Son, maybe 5-6 goals for Kulusevski, and then Brennan Johnson coming in, adding in, hypothetically adding in 8 more goals to that if he was to match his tally from last season. It's not necessarily about one player. It's not like a like for like. You don't substitute one player's output for another. The Kane output that we've lost is kind of being spread around. It's more about making a cohesive team unit rather than relying on one star striker for your goals. And exactly. I think a lot of people are missing that. I think a lot of people are missing the fact that we're trying to share out the goals rather than bring in players that will directly replace. Because no one, bar Robert Lewandowski or Erling Haaland, would even have a chance of matching Harry Kane's goal output for Tottenham Hotspur, Dusan Vlahovic included. So.
Yeah, it's absolutely spot on, because it's a lazy argument to say, oh, Brennan Johnson's coming in to replace Kane, because you can't replace Kane. Kane is irreplaceable. What you need to do is you need to build an attack where it's more of a team effort than reliant on just one man. And I think that's exactly what we're doing right now. I think it's nowhere near there yet. And this is a project still in its infancy, as Ange likes to call it. But I think we're making good strides, aren't we, Mikey?
Yeah, I see positive movement. Obviously, the cup exit puts a downer on the mood of the club right now. And maybe if we'd gone through, there might not be such a, but Tottenham fans are very starved, and it has been a good indicator that the first sign of trouble usually leads to more trouble. We've been used to that recently, with Mourinho, with Conte, with Nuno. But I'm not saying, I think it's too what's the word? It's too overzealous to think that a changing style of play will change everything around the club, because obviously that's not possible in such a short amount of time. But things are changing, things are improving. The mood around the club is the best it's ever been. I was at the Man United game. I haven't heard an atmosphere like that in years. Not since the Derby win 3-0 a couple seasons back at the new Spurs stadium. Like, that was an insane reception that Ange Postecoglou got. And I think this Brennan Johnson signing isn't just about, here you go, Tottenham fans, here's a deadline day signing. It's an Ange signing. He's looking for a player that can take on a man and have that sort of threatening pace that we haven't had since Heung-min Son of 21-22, that can actually burst in behind the defence and physically. Like, you saw how effective Adama Traore was against our defence. Having a player like that, regardless of the output and the ability, having a player that could directly run at opponents and take them all out is a skill that is very underappreciated in the modern game, in my opinion.
Yeah. In terms of any other incomings, how many do you expect today with the deadline fast approaching?
But if you include Brennan, I'm going to say 1, max 2. I think that Lloyd Kelly deal will happen. And I think, obviously, look, Lloyd Kelly is a left-footed centre-back, so it's very clear he wants a backup for Van der Ven that's not Ben Davies, because I think he sees Ben Davies as a left-back now. So I think we're looking for a left-footed centre-back, and I think he's chosen Lloyd Kelly. And again, I'm all for this kind of scrutiny, but as I've said repeatedly, like, when I first heard Ansu Fati isn't going to come to us, I was like, how can we lose a player of this quality and go and spend 50 million on Brennan Johnson? But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, if we haven't pushed so hard for Ansu Fati, then maybe the manager has reservations, and I'm ready to trust the manager's judgment. And a lot of fans are forgetting that we already have an injury-prone techie Spanish winger on our books, Brian Hill. A lot of fans forget he even exists. We always talk about our wing options. We go Solomon, Kulusevski, Perisic, and Son. We always forget that Brian Hill's just chilling there. So, I think Brian Hill would sort of be a foreboding to maybe not go for Ansu Fati, but Brennan Johnson is a great deal. I'd like to see Hojbjerg out on Gallagher, and I've warmed to the idea as the day's gone on. He's a very energetic midfielder and looks like he'd be a great sort of number 8 option as well.
And finally, Mikey, tell me your score prediction and how you see the game planning out this weekend.
Of course, we've got Burnley tomorrow, haven't we? Burnley they're at home and they're starving for a win. It's been 3 games. They've conceded, I think, 6 and they've scored 1. So they're starving for a win, and I would hate for it to be against us, obviously. So I think I'll go for a 2-1 win, but I think it's going to be possibly like the Brentford game. I think it might be one of those where Burnley will look to counter us, and it will be an interesting game. I'll hope that Sonny opens his account for the season, and I'll go for a 2-1 win to Tottenham Hotspur.
All right. Big up, Mikey. Thanks for coming on today, my friend, and we'll speak to you next time.
Yes, guys, in a bit.
Let's keep it moving. Let's go to Danny Kiriakou, and I'm sure this is going to be an interesting one.
How are you
Danny,
boys doing?
All good, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you. I'm not too bad, man. Enjoying Tottenham and everything else that goes along with it. But no, I'm good. I'm really good at the moment. So yeah.
Well, I know you've had your words to say about Brennan Johnson over the past couple of days. So let's get straight into it. Run me through your thoughts of the Brennan Johnson signing.
To be honest with you, right? So in my honest opinion, I think he is an average player. He's an okay player that's got pace. That's all it is to me, right? I've looked at the stats. I've done analysis on him on different players. I've seen other people's analysis videos, and I know there's people that put threads out on Twitter that I've read. But to me, everyone in this first fan base, they just overhype averageness, right? Because we are so starved of getting actual decent players, and when we were not in the running for actually good players, and the only players we're actually in the running for are players like this. Let's be honest, £47 million, right, is just insane. It is madness, absolute madness. I think, look, he's an okay player, and I said I'd be happy to have him if it was 15 million, 20 million tops, absolute tops, right? But that was never going to happen. And for me, I just think that 47 million could have been spent much more, or could have been spent better, should I say, on a more pressing area other than another winger. Look, in my opinion, I don't essentially think we actually need right now when Brian Hill comes back, because he's not leaving the squad, right? And we've still got Solomon, who you guys were talking about earlier on, right? Who I personally think is a better player all round than Johnson is. And I think if he's given a chance, I think he can actually show people how good he could be, right? For me personally, Brennan, obviously, look, he's got speed, he's pacey, but let's be honest, right? Let's actually be honest and analyze his game properly, right? The way his game is, he's set up to play on the counter attack, right? He's set up so that when he's running, he can run in straight lines directly. He's not a one-on-one take-on dribbler, right? So I think Solomon take-ons one-on-one is better than Johnson's is. I just think paying 47 million for someone like this, I don't think it's going to improve the starting 11, right? At all. Not at all. I think Kulusevski is going to be a better player than him. I just personally think that money could have been used for a centre-back, like go and get a Tapsoba, go and get a top-level centre-back, another Van de Ven level-esque type of centre-back, right? I mean, to even be linked with someone like Lloyd Kelly is an actual slap in the face, to be honest with you. As a Spurs fan, where we're paying the highest season ticket prices, highest prices in Europe, right? To go and watch we moved from White Hart Lane, in my opinion, was one of the best atmospheres in England, right? To go to a stadium so that we could make more money, to have money for transfers, is what they told us, the club told us, right? What Daniel Levy told us, right? And we're linked with players like Lloyd Kelly. I mean, there's so much better options for less money or around the same price, right? And this is why I can't understand the Spurs fan base going absolutely like apoplectic, like Brennan Johnson is the next Gareth Bale incarnate, or he's going to be the next David Ginola. I mean, are you serious? Like, honestly, what is wrong with the fan base? Like, I'm sorry, guys, but I know, Sim, I know your thoughts on Brennan Johnson, and I know we'll agree to disagree, but for me, he, in my opinion, in 2 to 3 years, the fans will want him out because he's going to show his averageness, and that is exactly what's going to happen. I get the same vibes.
Danny, are you not being a bit harsh? The kid is 22 years of age. He had his first year in the Premier League last year for Nottingham Forest. Yeah. Like the year before, he absolutely smashed up the Championship. We were talking about someone like Ansu Fati coming in yesterday or 2 days ago. I mean, he's played 36 games for Barcelona. This is Barcelona, not Nottingham Forest we're talking about. about and got less goals than Brennan Johnson did in a Nottingham Forest team in fighting relegation.
We cannot compare Ansu Fati to Barcelona to Brennan Johnson in Nottingham Forest. What you should compare him to is a winger in a similar position, right? Now, how old is Saka? How old is Bukayo Saka?
Saka?
Yeah, how old is Saka?
Saka's like a generational talent. You can't compare Saka to Brennan Johnson.
But you can, because they're in the same position and they're similar ages, right? So you can compare them, right? In that respect, what they offer for their teams in that position, you can compare them, right? Because they both play on the right wing.
Saka has come through the ranks at Arsenal, right? Playing the same way his whole career. Brennan Johnson has been playing for Nottingham Forest 1 year in the Premier League. How many years of Premier League experience has Saka got behind him?
I understand that, Ben, but my point is, right, when you're paying £50 million nearly for a player, you expect to have some kind of... I want to watch a player and I'm like, yeah, that's who I want. I'll tell you who gives me those type of vibes, right? And Richarlison's definitely not one of them, right? Someone like Pedro Neto at Wolves, right? Youngish player, right? Every time I watch him, this kid is unbelievable. He is an unbelievable talent. Mitoma, unbelievable talent, right? I would pay 50 and above for those type of players any day of the week because they instantly improve your starting 11. Instantly. Brennan Johnson for £50 million does not improve your starting 11. Okay, he might do a job, right? But do you honestly sit here and think that he's going to go and get 10, 15 goal contributions per season, right? Do you actually honestly believe he will do that?
I do.
Really? You really believe that?
Why
he
not?
got over 10 goal contributions in the Nottingham Forest side last season.
That's in all competitions, though, Ben. That's in all competitions.
He got 20 goals alone
but
in the Premier
Sim,
League.
hold on. We're not going to talk about Championship. We're going to talk about the Premier League, which is the league that we're in and the league that he's been playing in for the last year, right? Last year, he got 6 Premier League goals and 3 assists, right? Or sort of 2 assists or something like that.
8 Premier League goals and 3 assists.
It was 8. Oh, it was 6.
Yeah.
I saw 6 on the Premier League website.
No, it's 8.
You sure?
Yeah, 100%.
You're 100% sure?
100% sure.
Well, I still think, to me, even 8 Premier League goals in a Nottingham Forest team is still,
for a
for me,
21-year-old is good. I would say that's good. Who in
I
the
don't
bottom
think- I
half?
don't think
Who
he's
in the
that
bottom
good.
half got more goals than him in it as up front? I can't think of two, or playing on the wing as well. Like there's very few players at his age in that kind of position for that kind of team who's getting that output. To be fair, so and he also performs at international level. He's played quite well for Wales when given the opportunity as well, and he's going to be playing in a better team. So like, there's no reason why he can't be getting 10
You're saying he's going to be playing with a better team. Yeah, of course he is, but is he going to be playing with a better striker who's going to put those balls in the back of the net? No, I don't think so. I think Forest's striker is better than our striker right now. Richarlison can't hit a barn door if he tried. I mean, let's be honest.
He's got Maddison
behind
him.
But we keep talking about he's got Maddison, he's got this. What happens? I was talking about this on Sava's show and I think on someone else's show. As soon as you take one of those first 11 team players out, right, our level drops dramatically because you take Maddison out and we're a completely different team. You take Basuma out that team. Just one of those players in that first 11, in that puzzle we have right now, right, they drop. And so are you going to tell me that Brennan Johnson's going to be playing ahead of Kulusevski? Do you think he'll get more chances than Kulusevski would?
I think that's good competition, though.
Yeah, it gives us a different option. Look, I think Kulusevski's a better player. I do, but I think that Johnson provides us something different. He's able to get to the byline. He's able to go on the outside. Kulusevski's always doing a different thing, and maybe against teams like better teams like Arsenal or something, when we have to play more on the counter attack, he provides that option to run into space, like he's shown. He's the fastest player in the Premier League, and he knows where the goal is. He knows how to score goals, Brennan Johnson, and he's going to improve. I mean, he's only 22.
Sim, let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. You say that he knows where the goal is, right? Yeah. Just because the stats say he scored 8 goals doesn't mean those goals were good goals. What I saw from Brennan Johnson last season was someone who's very pacey. At times he can be difficult to play against, but his overall game, he's not that great. It's really not that great. And I don't know why there's this like what Spurs fans do is they don't actually watch a player. They look at the stats and they're like, right, that's it. He's good, right? He's got 8 goals. He's unbelievable. He's 21 years old. Amazing stats, right? Well, how many players in the past have we seen who have never made it in the Premier League or who've had one season where they've done 8 goals or 10 goal contributions, right? Clint Dempsey got 10 goals for Tottenham in the Premier League, right? Clint Dempsey. but he left after one season. Why did he leave after one season? This is the thing, right? Like, for me, £50 million is just insanity, right? To spend on someone like this.
Gordon's going for 50 million. Cole Palmer's going for 45
I
million.
don't rate Anthony Gordon either, though. I think Anthony Gordon is not a good player.
This is the market. If English teams want to buy these kind of players, especially English players, they're going for crazy amounts of money. I mean, you look at someone like Rasmus Højlund. He's only scored 6, 7, 8 career goals or something. He's gone for 75 million.
Yeah, I get that, but my issue is Tottenham spend money, but not on the right positions that we need. That's crucial right now. Right, we are dying out for a striker, and we're dying for another centre back, right? And our centre back we're linked with now is Lloyd Kelly. Are you serious? Like, Lloyd Kelly? Like, please, no one even. He played against us the other day, and no one even realised it. Apparently, right? I mean, this is the thing, and people are going to start talking like Lloyd Kelly's the next Ake or something. It's just it blows your mind the way these Spurs fans they overhype. No, he's not. Lloyd Kelly is not. No, Ben. Don't even start this, Ben. Don't even start this, Ben. Ben, do you want me to give you some fun facts? I'll give you some fun facts. Bournemouth brought in 2 new defenders to replace him, right? And he's now been a bit part player this season since they've started the season. And the 2 players they bought have started ahead of him. That tells you everything you need to know. We've spoken to, I've had a friend who's spoken to some Burnley fans, and Bournemouth fans, sorry, and they were saying he's not that good. He's just a bit flat-footed sometimes. He's all right. He's not great. I mean, is he better than Eric Dyer? Probably. I mean, it's not hard to be better than Eric Dyer. Every defender in the Premier League is better than Eric Dyer. So is he going to improve on that? Probably, but. For what, 25, 30 million pounds? It's insanity. Danny, do you know what, Ben? If it was me and you're going to pay 25, 30 million pounds for someone like Lloyd Kelly, I'd go and pay that for Bella Kotchap right now. Because for me,
I said at the beginning of this stream. That's exactly what I said at the beginning of this stream. I prefer to go get Bella Kotchap
1,000,000%.
Lloyd Kelly. And I'm not a fan of Lloyd Kelly. I'm just taking the piss.
No, I know you are. I know.
There's a Maldini. I don't want Lloyd Kelly. Don't get it twisted.
I know you don't. I know. But this is kind of what really annoys me about the way Tottenham do business. I mean, there are players out there like Bella Kotchap who is roughly the same price as a Lloyd Kelly. Why don't you? This is someone that was linked with Dortmund and Bayern Munich, right? You know this, and we've seen how good he is in the Premier League. Last season, he was brilliant, right? For me, Bella Kotchap would be the one. If you go and get a centre back, go and get him, and I'd be happy because I know we've got someone who's a lot more competent than a Lloyd Kelly and an Eric Dyer and a Tanganga and a Sanchez, right? Sanchez will at least be 4th in the pecking list if you get someone like Bella Kotchap in. But for me, I just think Lloyd Kelly is another meh signing. Look, Johnson, he could become good, right? He could become good. Like Sim said, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is young. He's got some good attributes in a certain way. But look, if he becomes a really good player for Tottenham and he delivers and his output's good, his all-round game becomes better, then look, I'm happy to be mudded because it's for the better of Tottenham, right? I'll take that mud bath proudly. It doesn't bother me because I know Tottenham are going to be doing better because of it, right?
It's coming your way, Danny. It's coming your way.
Look, I hope so, Ben. I really hope so. But I just got Richarlison vibes off this. I feel like for me, I knew when I said before Richarlison joined Spurs, I remember coming on your channel and other channels, and I was giving it against Richarlison, saying I preferred someone like Rafinha. Obviously, Rafinha ended up at Barcelona, but I preferred someone like him for what we needed. And I think if you look at what Richarlison's delivered, I feel that it's going to be. Do you know what? I'll be honest, right? The biggest problem about this whole situation with Johnson is his price tag, right? Because I think there's a lot of fans that are going to get on his back fairly quickly if he's not producing what fans expect him to produce. And I think that's where the biggest problem is going to lie. Like even myself, right? I'm going to back him if he's going to come to Spurs. So I'm going to get behind the player because he's a Spurs player now, and I'm going to pray that and hope that he does better than expected and he wows everyone. I really hope so, right? But I just feel that if he doesn't produce and he's very average and he has some games where he's all right, some games where he's good, some games where he's meh, I think the fans are gonna get on his back fairly quickly, and I'll feel sorry for him because he's young. I just think it's a shame that that we've had to pay so much money for him, and I know this is what the club wanted for him and what Tottenham were prepared to pay for him. But just have to wait and see how it goes with Brennan Johnson. But
fans need to understand. Fans need to understand that we're bang in the middle of a rebuild now. We've had 3-4 games under a brand new manager in Ange Postecoglou, completely flipped the switch on how we're playing our football. If you're led to believe the Athletic and other publications, Ange really wanted Brennan Johnson through the door. So surely this is backing your manager, getting a player in the manager wants.
In my opinion. Look, I get that, but in my opinion, I think it's a load of PR about him being Ange's top target. In my opinion, right? I just cannot believe that if he was the top target, guys, they would have signed him at the beginning of the window, right? When they knew what Forest wanted, they could have done this exact deal at the beginning of the window, right? For me, this is a panic buy because they know that if they don't get Johnson, there's no one else they can get in that position who they want, right? Because they've got the money. They've obviously got the money to go and pay for a £50 million player. Just we can't use that excuse that we don't have money, right? We cannot use that excuse. They are putting up 47 million up front for this player. So we've got the money. The problem is that they should have done this deal at the beginning of the window if he was Ange's top target, right? If they're saying that, right, for me, it's a load of PR. Just like the PR was when apparently we were talking with Ansu Fati, and as soon as the deal falls through, oh no, we weren't talking with him. No, we weren't. That's a mistake. It's a load of rubbish. It's just the PR set out by the club to try and appease the fans, to make it look like they're doing the right thing and all this kind of malarkey. But for me,
I think the reason we didn't go for Ansu Fati is because Barcelona didn't want to put a buy option in there. And Spurs, why would Spurs do that? It seems like a terrible deal.
No,
You're basically just training Ansu Fati for a year to go back to Barcelona. Ben,
it's not even. I'm not even talking about. It's not even about the actual player in that deal in particular. It's about the fact that if he was the top target, they should have gone and got him at the beginning of the window. There's no excuses, right? Right now, this is deadline day, and we're panicking because we're trying to get players in when we could have done this a long time ago, right? We have the money for it, Ben. There's no excuses. We could have done this at the beginning of the window.
In fairness to Danny, I don't think we can claim that we've waited till the end of the window to get a better deal, can we? Because we've paid the money.
Yeah, but Sim, anyway. Yeah.
So,
not just that, Sim.
I'll agree with you on that.
Not just that. We got them down by £3 million from their initial valuation of what they wanted, right? But I'm sure that this deal could have been done on the beginning of the window. Like, and this is the problem. Like, we're now scraping around now, and do you know what? Right, my biggest frustration out of this whole window is the fact that we have not got rid of enough players, right? We have not got rid of the players that should have been gone from this club a long time ago. And now we're waiting. Now we're trying to get rid of players like Hojbjerg and other players, and we might not even bring in a defender because Davinson Sanchez and Dyer might not leave the club. Now, can you imagine what that does, right? For me, I think that causes animosity between the squad, right? Because then you've got players like Eric Dyer who've been it looks like they've tried to force him out, and he doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to run down his contract to stay and play another year or get paid for another year. And you've got players like Hojbjerg who now apparently looks like he does want to leave. So what happens if you can't get rid of Hojbjerg? You've now got another player who really doesn't really want to be there. And it's like you've now got to try and reintegrate them back into the team.
There's some news coming out about Hojbjerg. There is some news coming out about Hojbjerg. Sammy Mockbell saying that Atletico are set to make a loan offer for PM or Hojbjerg with an obligation to buy. And Matteo Moretto as well says Spurs expect Atletico to come in with a loan offer with an obligation to buy as well. So positive moves. If we can get Hojbjerg out and replace him with Conor Gallagher, is that something you're in favour of?
Yeah, I think I'd prefer Conor. I think Conor Gallagher's a good player. I don't think he's anything special. I think he might do a better job in the system than say Hojbjerg would. That doesn't make him a better player. I just think he's more suited to the system. I don't think Hojbjerg's a bad player. I think he's not. I think again he's a good player. I think sometimes Hojbjerg can have amazing games. Sometimes he can have awful games. I think Gallagher. I think he'll probably offer us more on the ball. I think technically he's probably a little bit better. Well, from what I've seen, I think they're kind of like that. I think they're very similar technically. I just think that Gallagher runs more. He does a lot more running, a lot more groundwork, a lot more fighting for the team. I think he'll probably fit what Ange wants from the player more than what Hojbjerg can do for Ange. I think that's probably where I see it better. But for me, the player that I think we should go and get, and I know we're not going to because he's going to Nottingham Forest, is Sangare. I think Sangare is I think it's going to be one of the biggest deals. 33 or 36 million euros, which is about 30 odd million pounds, right? For a proper centre defensive midfielder. For me, he would have been the Wanyama replacement we've been looking for a long time. I think this kid is going to, in the next couple of years, he's going to be playing for one of the big teams. I'm telling you now. And I think if Nottingham Forest pull that deal off, I think that is one of the steals of the summer. Honestly, this is exactly the type of player Spurs need in their midfield. If you put him with Basuma and Maddison in the midfield, or Basuma, Sarr, Maddison, or Basuma, Maddison, Sangare, whoever we're going to do, I think he would have given us the best option. Because we need, if you're going to get rid of Hojbjerg, right, you only leave yourself with one defensive-minded type of player, and that's Skip, right? Is Skip really what you want to be left with for the rest of the season as your defensive midfielder? Because let's be honest, defensive cover, but let's be honest, we're going to get injuries, right? So we know they're going to have to play games. And is Skip enough, right? I would rather Hojbjerg play as the backup than Skip, in my opinion, right? And I'm just very worried the fact that we're not going to be bringing in another proper defensive-minded player, because I think Hojbjerg's more defensive than Gallagher is. I think Gallagher offers us something different than what Hojbjerg offers us. I'm not saying they're both great, but I just think we needed someone with a bit more steel, a bit more bite in that midfield, and who can maybe allow Basuma to even have even more of a free role than he already has. Which, I think we're still lacking. I think we need another striker still. I don't think we're going to get another striker. But we have to wait and see who we're going to get. I'm just, it's still, for me, it's a very underwhelming end to the transfer window. As much as we've signed a £47 million youngster, I just think, we could have spent that money better elsewhere. I think if it was me, I would have gone and spent £60 million, bring in Tapsoba, you go and get a top level centre back, and you've got your centre backs covered for the next couple of years, and then we can maybe go until January or the next summer to go and get a Brennan Johnson in if they really want to. Because you now, like Sim said earlier, you guys were discussing earlier, what does this mean for Solomon then? What does it mean for him? Like, is he going to get a chance now? Is Brian Hill going to get a chance when he comes back? You're going to have Brian Hill, you're going to have Johnson, you're going to have Perisic, you're going to have Son, you're going to have who's the other one I'm missing? Kulusevski. It's just, it's now we're like over flooded with wingers now. It's like we've got 3 wingers nearly in each position. So, I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. But how you guys are obviously excited by Brennan Johnson. So what do you think we need then for the rest of this window? Do you think we're going to sign anyone else? 'Cause
I don't know if we are, but I need to see a centre-back come in. That's a necessity. If we don't bring in another centre-back, I think that's a massive letdown. And I'd like to see Hojbjerg being replaced, and I'm happy with Conor Gallagher. I think he's a really good option, to be fair. And I take you back to the season he had on loan at Crystal Palace, which I thought he was one of the best players, definitely in the bottom half of the Premier League anyway. So, but Lloyd Kelly is not it for me. Definitely not.
Yeah,
no,
for me,
definitely
like Gallagher's like a cherry on top for me. It's like a nice thing. I don't think it's completely we need, but I would like. I mean, it's better. I'd rather it happen than not happen. But for me, I'm very focused on getting another centre back. And if we don't do that, we're just leaving ourselves so short. And either with quality or with numbers, and either one is going to be bad. So we need another centre back for sure, desperately.
I also kind of do feel like not getting in Gift Orban is a massive mistake for us this window. I think I genuinely believe if we don't sign, well, we're not going to sign him. After this window, next window in January or next summer, he's going to go to Borussia Dortmund or Leipzig or Brighton or one of these teams, and he's going to be worth 80 to 100 million in two years' time or something.
I agree.
Like that.
Completely. I think that's a massive gamble Spurs are taking, because from what they're telling us is that they don't feel that he's ready for the Premier League, or there's certain attributes that they don't feel he's ready for. I've heard things about his attitude in training might not be the greatest. So if that's what they're going off, then look, it's up to the player to go and prove it on the pitch at the end of the day. And if he goes another season where he's just like he's just had, and he just rips that league apart, it shows you that he's just too good for that league and he needs a higher competition. And you're right, the next step would probably be a German club or someone like a Brighton, and they'll take a punt on him, and I think those teams will benefit from those rewards. I personally would have loved. I think if you sign Brennan Johnson, right, you sign a Gift Orban, and you sign, say, like a Bella Kotchap, I'd say that's a wonderful window. I think the whole window, I think that's a wonderful window in my opinion. I just can't. Yeah, I just feel, again, it's the typical thing that Spurs do. We go into a window, right, where we need to replace certain key areas, and we don't really address those key areas once again. And that's how I feel. Like I think we would. I think the two or three wingers we brought in this window has kind of replaced Mora, Bergwijn, and who was the other one who we had who left? I can't remember now. But it's like we finally replaced them. But I think we had more pressing issues we need to deal with, and we need that centre back, because our defense cannot last if, say, someone like Van der Ven gets injured and then we have to bring in Ben Davis to cover him. I mean, it's not going to be good for us if that happens.
All right, look, Danny, give us your prediction for the game on the weekend.
Prediction for the game, I think it'll be a close game. I think there's a lot of fans thinking it's going to be an easy game, but I don't think any game's easy in the Premier League. I think it's going to be, again, like a 2-1 Spurs, maybe. Maybe if we're lucky, we might get a 3-1, because I think our first 11 is good. I think we can have a game against anyone with our first 11. I don't have a problem with them. And I think, I just think that it's those substitutes that we have the problem with. So we have to wait and see. But look, I think 2-1, 3-1, maybe something like that. That's what will probably happen. I think we'll win. I don't think we'll lose. I don't think we'll draw. I think they're gonna want to try and prove themselves again that they're not this team that they showed against Fulham. Sorry. And it's up to them. It's going to be a whole 9 changes again. So I'm expecting a win, to be honest with you. I don't expect anything less from that first 11 from what I've seen of them this season. But yeah, look, I just kind of final thoughts. I just hope that we can get that centre back in. Brennan Johnson, I'm going to be behind him. I'm going to want him to do well. We have to wait and see how he does. Hopefully he can integrate quickly into Ange's system and style and what he wants him to do. And he can start kind of benefiting them from the team around him and giving us the rewards that we all crave. And we just have to wait and see with the others, really. Do you know what? The last thing I hope is, just pray Eric Dyer leaves, because I think that already gives you a +2 rating of your window if Eric Dyer leaves. I'm telling you, Eric Dyer leaving, it just completely does it for me. But yeah, boys, let's see how it goes and enjoy, man. Thanks for having me, boys.
Have a good day. See you later.
And you, boys.
Danny.
And there's been some developments in the Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg situation. Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted saying that told Atletico Madrid already presented a verbal proposal for Hojbjerg on loan with a buy clause. Deal currently complicated as initial proposal not matching Tottenham's expectations. Atletico Madrid are on it. And Nazar Kinsella says that Chelsea have received a verbal £40 million bid for Conor Gallagher from Spurs. The offer falls short of Chelsea's nearly $50 million asking price, but all parties believe a deal could be struck in certain circumstances. I mean, isn't that deal cheaper than what they already rejected earlier in the window from West Ham?
They rejected, I think it was 40 million, I think.
Wasn't it like 42, 43 or something?
Potentially, I can't remember exactly the figures, but something similar to that. Maybe they'll have some add-ons included and stuff like that. So seems as though this deal is definitely moving in the right direction, that's for sure. Hojbjerg to Atletico is definitely heating up, and that's going to be the key thing, I think. It looks as though to me that Chelsea are willing to sell to Spurs when it comes to Conor Gallagher. Yeah. So
you know what's going to come down to? They're just going to like play real big hardball with us. We're going to sell Hojbjerg, then we won't be able to strike a deal with Chelsea.
Yeah, classic. We know how Daniel Levy's
like. The fax machine will break in the last minute or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it seems as though it's moving in the right direction, though.
Yeah, let's hope it carries on that way. But let's go on to our next guest. He goes by the name of Josh King. Let's bring him on. How you doing, Josh?
The King is in the building.
Good, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, all good, man. I mean, there's been a lot of polarizing views around Brennan Johnson so far. And from a guy like you, we've been speaking quite a lot in the WhatsApp group about him, in previous days. You seem to have maybe warmed to the idea of Brennan. Are you still seeming that way?
You know what I'm like. I'm a complete flip-flop. Like, when we were first linked, I was like, who's this Forest player? Like, do you know what I mean? Championship level. Now I've started calling him Dale because he's a mix between Dele Alli and Dale. So he's like, he's my Welsh wizard now. He's my mixed race king. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at. Honestly, I proper warm to him. Do you know what it is? It's just I don't feel like, and it's so sad to say, but I just don't feel like Sonny has that turn of pace anymore. And you know, Kulu is so slow when you're, you know, in the transition. Do you know what I mean? When he's against medium fast defenders, he's just got no chance. He has to be up against like dire level defenders basically to beat them for pace. So I really think he's going to add a lot. And you got to remember, we finished 8th last year, so it's like we're not one of the best teams in the league. A lot of teams are going to fancy their chances against us, so we are going to get transitional opportunities. It's not like Man City where you're going to be camped in their half the whole time and you need really intricate, tricky players to break people down. Teams are going to attack us, and I think he's going to be a good asset to us. So I'm really, really happy with it now. And do you know what? I'm just like, none of us have a clue really when we talk about this. Like, look at the players that Brighton and Brentford have been signing. Like, nobody would be picking out most of them. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I love Danny, but I completely disagree with the fact that, like, we shouldn't be looking at players like Lloyd Kelly that do well on the data and Brennan Johnson, who obviously has some attributes. Do you know what I mean? So I just think let them do their thing. Our recruitment has been bang on since Paratici, I think. So
I agree.
Until it starts failing again, I'm just going to trust them. F it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think a lot of it is just a case of like we've sold Harry Kane and we're expecting like a big forward to come in and you know replace him or just to be an addition, and then Brennan Johnson maybe just doesn't satiate the appetite of the Kane departure? Do you think that's just a big part of it?
100%. Like, you know, if we end up spending the Kane money on Conor Gallagher and Brennan Johnson, like the you know, Levy outers, even though I'm a Levy outer as well, like we'll have a field day, like that section of the fan base that are really heavy on it. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't whet the appetite or whatever, but they could turn out to be good. None of our marquee signings are ever good. So we might as well just embrace these types of signings. I didn't expect anything from players like Dele Alli, or I know this is a lot of money. I'll tell you, if Ornstein is right and it's 47.5 fixed fee, it's a lot of money, but that isn't a lot of money in today's day and age now. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is that under what Gordon cost? I can't even remember.
I believe so. I think maybe if you're including add-ons, I think Gordon reached 50 million, I think. And so it's going to be in a similar ballpark. Cole Palmer, who's had 3 Premier League starts, has gone for 45 million, including add-ons as well. So, you know that there's a similar ballpark. But to Danny's point about, you know, him being our first choice, like, is there some validity to that, considering it's not exactly like we've got a good deal in terms of the price when in terms of late in the window? So what could possibly have been the reason for leaving this kind of deal this late if it wasn't to get a better price?
There's a lot of factors that go into that. It's like, was he really the first choice? Like, that's what springs to mind straight away. I'm like, was he really? We were talking about Gift Orban heavily for for 2 or 3 weeks. I think maybe what's happened is, because especially what Ange said today, and I'm giving Ange the benefit of the doubt that he talks sense most of the time. So, like, he said today, the players that we are getting are the players that the scouting department have identified and then I want. So I feel like the scouting department have identified a list, players like Orban, the Porto winger, you know, just a few other players were on
Bakayoko,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, were on it, including Brennan Johnson. And then it's come to the end of the window and Ange has said, Brennan Johnson is my priority out of all of those players. I don't want Gift Orban. I don't want this player. I don't want that player. Or maybe not, I don't want them. I prefer Brennan Johnson over all of them. It's the hardest deal to get done out of most of them, I think. Like, and maybe the Porto one, I'm not sure. But I do think that going to another Premier League team that is going to be battling relegation this year, or, you know, fighting to stay in the Prem, getting one of their prize young assets, I think that's the hardest deal to do out of a lot of them. So it probably is his priority out of what we identified for him. And maybe it was just like, we reckon if we leave it to the end of the window, we'll be able to get a cheaper deal on it. But it didn't work. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, this is what Spurs do every single window. Every window, we leave a couple right until the wire and try and get it done. I mean, it's nothing new, this Spurs trying to leave it really late. But in terms of the rest of the window, and, we don't have long left, do you expect any more in?
I'm pretty sure we won't get a centre-back. I feel like there's no movement, unless you lot can update me in real time. Has there been any centre-back stuff recently?
The only thing is, Gary Jacobs said about, I think, an hour ago that Spurs are set to increase their bid for Lloyd Kelly, but nothing's come in since then.
Didn't he say if we sell someone?
Yeah, I think it said it's dependent on sales, yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul O'Keefe just said that, didn't he? He said, like, bringing in a centre-back is heavily reliant on one of Dyer or Sanchez.
And we keep bloody rejecting bids for these centre-backs. It's ridiculous.
Just let Dyer go on loan, man. I would let him go on a loan, like a similar loan to Reguilon. Like, I'd just let him go without even them saying, look, we'll pay 75%, 50% of his wages. Just get him out, honestly. You can't get any money for him now. He's got 1 year left. So... no, I don't think we're going to sign a centre-back because we've rejected bids, which is disappointing. But I know I'm extremely pessimistic usually, but when I really think about it, if Ange is willing to let Phillips and Dorrington have a go, like, as our backups, we're in 2 competitions. Do you know what? Just go for it. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather that and we get Brennan Johnson and Conor Gallagher than nothing, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because Hojbjerg leaving means that we can get a midfielder. No centre-back leaving apart from Tanganga doesn't really mean we can get a centre-back because we've got 2 more we need to shift. At least one of those needs to go. And I think we would be hearing about them leaving if it was going to happen by now, like a bit more.
There's no evidence, though, that Phillips or Dorrington are going to be given a go. They're both playing for the under-23s. Sanchez got given the nod in the cup game. So, I mean, if there's no movement on the centre-back, I assume Davinson Sanchez will be that second choice. And then what happens with Eric Dyer? Does he carry on being shafted out and not being on the bench at all? I mean, what happens? I don't know if Phillips or Dorrington get a go.
Who's been on the bench? I haven't been looking at the bench. Who's been on the bench with Sanchez? Has there only been one centre-back?
I think it's just been him. Just been him.
Yeah, I believe.
Right. Okay, well... God,
Phillips was on the bench in pre-season one game against
Barca. Yeah, but as soon as the league started, he hasn't been on the bench once.
I think Dyer will end up coming back in if, but hopefully he doesn't play. I don't know. We should really be giving like Phillips and that a chance. If they're meant to be that good, then that's what we should be doing. I suppose it's hard to say. Right now, I'm upset with the situation. We should have bought another centre-back. But what I will say is, again, not to call you out, Danny, I love you, but like the fact that, he was going, I would have spent 60 mil on Tapsoba, blah, blah. We aren't Man City or Man United. We don't even have European football. So these centre-backs are not going to come to sit on the bench. If you got centre-backs like Tosin Adarabioyo rejecting you to go to Monaco because he doesn't think he's going to get enough game time, we're not going to be able to get that level of centre-back. Lloyd Kelly is our backup level. Do you know what I mean? And the data shows that he's decent. He's a good passing centre-back. He can play a high line. Like, do you know what I mean? He can't be worse than Dyer, can he? So
yeah, and on top of that, Josh, it's not even just the European football. We're out the second round of the League Cup. Like exactly. we are about to have the least amount of games that we've probably ever had in the Premier League era. Out the first round of the Cup. We've just got the FA Cup and the Premier League now. That is it. There's nothing else. Until January, it's just Premier League games. So, I mean, do we need such a massive squad this season anyway?
Definitely not. I think we've probably got too many midfielders, even if we get, like, even swapping Hojbjerg for Gallagher. Like, we could probably go with just selling Hojbjerg if we wanted to, because we've got barely any games. But we'll say that, and then we'll have major injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's hard to know, but... Yeah.
Where do you stand? We were discussing it before on, Brennan Johnson's coming in. That's another winger option. And we were discussing what Manos Solomon's season's going to look like at the moment. Because at the moment, Postecoglou seems to favour Perisic over him. Perisic is the one he seems to turn to when we need someone to come on the left. If Solomon thought he was going to get maybe some game time on the right hand side as competition for Kulusevski, we've now brought in Brennan Johnson, so that time is going to be limited there. Like, I'm failing to understand the point of this signing at this moment. Like, why have we taken up a space in the non-homegrown for a winger who we don't think right now is even better than Perisic?
I honestly feel like it was maybe just to get a free transfer in. It's totally
too good to turn down.
Yeah, we could probably sell him for 10 mil next season, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Someone like Fulham or Nottingham Forest. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, but yeah, it was probably a silly signing, and it's the kind of signing that would have made sense in Europe, because I think he would have got minutes in Europe, and I think he would have shone in Europe like Lucas Moura used to, that similar type of player, and then we would have maybe got 20-25 mil if we're lucky for him or something like that. But right now it doesn't look good. It does look like it was data backed though, so I'm just going to carry on trusting it until it stops. We've not liked signings before and they've come good since we've started this Paratici data thing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
And finally, big game tomorrow. What's your score prediction?
2-2.
2-2.
You don't even win it.
Yeah. I think I honestly think this as well. I think that it's just the Tottenham way to get a bad result after exiting a cup. If you look historically at what our results are after exiting the cup, it's not good at all. And that is usually when we've heavily rotated as well. And it's like sod's law that, you heavily rotate to rest for a certain game and then you lose that game anyway. So I honestly don't think we're going to win.
That's exactly what happened last season. We heavily rotated for Sheffield United, and then for the Wolves game, we went up losing both.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
All right. Big up, Josh. Thanks for coming on today, mate, and we'll speak to you next time.
Appreciate you, Josh.
Scorpion fan for life with the super chat says, Brennan is our plan to target homegrown talent and looking at price. Think about, I've already read that one out. Brandon was saying, get this guy off to Danny Kiriakou.
Oh, it's harsh.
Jory says, what was the price on Tapsoba that we didn't want to pay up for? 45 million. It's not about replacing Kane. It's about doing this position justice. Big up, Danny. I mean, they went for Van der Ven, who was 50 million, which was, rumored to be similar amount to Tapsoba. Thinking about it now, with no European football, can they justify? I mean, can you actually bring in both of those players with the lack of games that we actually have this season?
Yeah, I would like to say yes, but now we're out the cup. There's even less games to go around. So we have to just hope that the top two centre-backs stay fit at this point, because there isn't going to be enough game time without a League Cup. There's only going to be one game a week for at least 6 months now. So I think in a perfect world, yes, but maybe it's just a case of once we're back in Europe, then we can pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it. Catman Jess says, big up Ben and Sim. Brennan is a good signing in my opinion. Big up Catman Jess. Pure Alf Bart saying, hi guys, all the support from California. Great content. Are you guys fans of Indian food? Any content on the food tour in the future? I mean,
Definitely
we're massive fans of Indian food, but no food tour content expected. Welcome to Silver to THC Sloth.
Big up.
Pure Av Bat with the super chat again saying, Spurs in the transfer window is like me before exams. No preparation at first, but go through just before the end.
Actually, cram it all in.
Yeah,
cram it all in just before the exam. I love it.
And Stuart says, only UK signings possible due to the deadline tonight. I mean, I don't think so. We've seen players come from abroad on the transfer deadline day before, so I don't see why we couldn't if we really wanted to.
And also, we're hoping Hojbjerg goes to Spain. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up, we have got Brains McLeod. Big up, Brains. How you doing, mate?
Oh, he's on mute.
Always on mute when he comes on, this Brains.
Never. That's the first time. That is the first time.
No slander, Ben. No slander.
That's my lovely intro. I said, how are you doing, my lovely little spunk monkey friends? I don't know why I said
Brains, there's been a lot of conflicting reactions to Brennan Johnson so far. What do you think?
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't know, man. I think all I'm going on is like every time I've ever seen Forrest play, and he's always been good. Like every single time I've seen them, he's always like, and I'll probably have like 2 games on at the same time or something. I won't be like concentrating, but then every time I look up, it's because he's skinned a guy down the line, or he's scored a great goal, or he's got an assist. And I've always thought he's a great player. I've always thought, just without saying it out loud, but I've always kind of thought we should get him. He's a great player, And so I can't pretend to be unhappy about getting him. It's just a bittersweet because it's kind of like, I do think he will make us better as well. It's just when you set the expectation of the players you need in, and the positions you need in, and you don't get them, and you're sitting there looking at, well, Dyer and Sanchez are still here, then it kind of it ruins your mood. You should be going, wow, like we should be celebrating this guy. We should be really happy about it. And then we're kind of the flip side of it is like, we don't have all the guys in the right areas that we need. But on him himself, I'm willing to say that I think it's a 7 out of 8 signing.
7 out of 8.
It could do more. I think he could become an 8 signing.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, like, I guess the argument is, like you're saying, like, was he actually a proper necessity for us to bring in when we needed a centre back and everything like that? But look, I agree with you. I think he's going to be a really good signing for Spurs. I think he gives us something different that we don't have on the wings at the moment in sheer pace and going on the outside, being able to get those crosses in. But why do you think all this negativity is coming around him? Do you think it's just because we haven't got that centre-back in? Or maybe, he's not a shining signing like from Barcelona, like Ansu Fati, and he is coming from a team like Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, there's a part of that. But also it's like, I mean, I never wanted Ansu Fati because it was like, yeah, I know he's a baller. He's got bucket loads of skill, and he can beat a man and make them look as silly as he made. Did he make Ben Davies look like he sent him to another dimension? Like, he can do that to players, but he's not really a facility player that you really need that can last. He'll get an injury 2 games in. And you're like, what are you really doing? And he's not gonna sign with us. So it's not a long-term thing. I was never into that signing. But then you can see that because he's got such a big name. Wait, is he only like 17 still, right? Isn't he like super young still?
Ansu, he's 20.
He's 20 now, yeah.
Oh, is he 20 now? Yeah, so he's super young. But like, yeah, I didn't really see, and obviously you're dealing with the fact of like when big names are out there, and it's like the realism against the expectation. Reality is we are Spurs. We have no Europe. We can only get 3 marquee players in a window. That's it. That's the reality. The rest has to be filler players. We just won't get, even if we have the money, we will not get more than 3 big names in. This window, Madison, VDV, Johnson, done. That's all we can get, where the expectation is we want to go and challenge for the biggest names in the game. And then we get angry when we see Amrabat going for a loan. And we're like, oh, we could get that done. But yeah, it's like, he doesn't want us. Sangare doesn't want us. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we are Spurs.
I mean, Sangare is going to Nottingham Forest.
Well, yeah, but he might have had that sold to him. He might go there and go, it's Nottingham Forest. I play every game. I'm not going into wrestle Bazuma for that position. He's won man of the match 2 games in a row. I'm not going to go there and wrestle that guy out of a position. I'm going to go and do something at Nottingham Forest, and then one season later I could go for 100 million. That's the way I would be looking at it, like him. So it's also, we just don't have the business to go and deal with that guy. Like, in reality, your agents who negotiate the deals, they do the business. So when we shouldn't be getting angry when we don't get Kudos in. When we go, Kudos should have come in. We can't get angry at that because we just don't have any contact with Kudos clearly, and he wouldn't come at us. There's a meridian of realistic reasons why we don't get these players, but then it's just our expectation is that we deserve or we should get these players, and I think we've got VDV. Once you had a big name or like a big prospect player like that come in, we were never going to get another big centre back. You know what I mean?
So having said that, then what's your opinion on bringing in Lloyd Kelly as a backup?
Well, I think it's because we have it. A problem that we're dealing with is that we have a solid 11. That's a problem because, like, you can't get a big defender to come and say, yeah, I'll come and be backup to VDV or Romero. They're all going to want to come, and they're not going to want to come because you have to understand that the deal terms will be minimum and maximum minutes played, and if it's loans, like how much they have to play. They're not going to want to come and risk having to fight for a position if an 11 is kind of quite set. This is why you're not going to get a big striker to come in when Harry was here. You were never going to get a big backup. You're always going to get, a player that's going to, going to fill in a position every now and then. So I think it's just that reality of, like, we have a strong 11 and now we need a second 11 that is full of prospect and up and coming and good that need to get better. The problem with our second 11 is that it's got loads of kind of big names in it that are at the back end of their career and also like square pegs for round holes that don't really fit what we're trying to do. So we have a lot of players who don't really fit the system in the second team. So we have no real kind of balance when we make loads of swaps. So that's a bit of a shit show because it then means, like, you have to go most of a season praying that you don't get injuries.
And yeah, that's the situation we are in, especially in the back line. Talking about the potential midfield at the moment, there's talk about Hojbjerg going to Atletico and Conor Gallagher coming the other way. The deal was still complicated to do at the moment, but is that one you want to see done? Is that one you're excited about?
On it that we haven't given from Jason Burt saying, at present, the fresh Atletico offer for Tottenham doesn't include an obligation to buy, and it's not taken seriously by Tottenham at the moment.
But they're still in negotiations.
Still in negotiations,
so,
yeah.
Look, they might come up with something. Let's say, but is that one you want to see done, or you not, or are you happy to see Hojbjerg stay?
It's a real tough one because I didn't think he was good the other night at all. It might have just been a bad game, and also it's like tough. When you make all those changes, you can't make all those changes and then have everyone who's on the outskirts play with each other. Hojbjerg probably could go into, we saw it a couple of times. He can go in and just do a job. So, and I think he's probably a little bit more embedded in the system than going and getting Gallagher. I'm just being honest, right? I watched Chelsea quite a lot last season, and I watched Gallagher, and I was annoyed that he got into the England team. So I was watching him a lot. I was watching his play. And you talk about Romero being rash, he was super rash, fouls out of nowhere, like hothead, not working in the system they needed. I felt like he was completely out of place in the way they were trying to play. Maybe a lot of them were. But then you have to go back to Crystal Palace. And then you see the kind of type of player he is, where in a team where actually he's kind of more senior, that he's not really like had much to worry about. Like, I'm starting every week. He can feel like the man, then he steps up. At Spurs, again, he's coming to this problem where I don't think he's a starter. I think Bentancur starts over him in a month and a half or whatever, even coming back from an injury. I think Bissouma, Sarr, Maddison all start over him. So I don't know if it makes that much sense. I think having Hojbjerg as a backup, if he doesn't want to go to Fulham, fine, ride the bench, be a backup. And I think Hojbjerg is a decent backup to go in and just fill out spots every now and then.
Looking at the overview of the window and what the squad needs, like, are you happy with how the window's gone? If we can maybe get, we've got a Johnson and maybe we can get one other, like, are you happy with where the squad is at the moment, or are you a bit frustrated with how this window's gone? Do you think like Ange would be happy with what he's got?
I mean, I can't think any more about how Ange thinks because I'm still unbelievably butthurt about the other night. I kind of feel like a girl. I kind of feel like I've been seeing a girl and been expecting her to just be honest and upfront with me, and I feel like she's gone and cheated on me, and now it's just a shit show of a relationship. Like, I'm not saying that I don't completely vouch for how he makes the first team play, But I feel like he was so unbelievably naive to do that the other night, and I genuinely feel like he threw the game. And I could go on for ages explaining why I view it like that. I don't think in any way he took that tournament serious at all, and I think that is a massive mistake, because what can now happen now on Sunday? Because I think there was a balloon of positivity that was just winning people over and lifting a fan base out of this funk. He was doing so good. To pop some of these balloons and genuinely feel us sink back in is horrible for me right now. And I think now he's under huge pressure. If this Burnley game is a loss, it's like, why did you do that to yourself? You had an opportunity to go and smash Fulham with a strong team. And now we're like all worried about, oh God, Burnley, So I'm saying we've missed the opportunity to keep momentum going. And that just kind of does my head. And when it comes to the actual window, though, like, here's how I break the window down. Madison is a 9 out of 10, right? So you can actually calculate. You don't have to give your window a number. You can calculate it, right? There's seven signings, so you do it. What does it score out of 70, right? So Madison's a 9 out of 10. Vicario's a 7 out of 10. Solomon's a 6 out of 10, possibly dropping to a 5 because he's not shown anything so far. VDV is a 9 out of 10. Velise is a 3 out of 10 because we won't even see him for ages. Johnson, I think, is a 7 out of 10, and Phillips is a 5 out of 10 because he's just bench fodder until he comes in. That gives you a window of 6.5, 65 out of 100. So it comes out to be 6.5 of a window. Then you calculate Kane went out. So then again, if you're calculating the whole window, so 6.5 is what it is for the window coming in. But if you calculate the fact you've still got Sanchez here, so you're losing 3 or 4 points there. You've still got Dyer there. You're losing 3 or 4 points there, and you've got Kane out without a replacement, so you're losing 8 points there. So it's a minus 7.5 window. That's what
it's a minus 7.5. Worst window of all time, it sounds like.
I started off so positive when I was trying to work it out, and then I was like, minus 7.5.
So if we're finishing 15th,
it's not really it worked out here.
Not quite how you expected.
Without working it out, Brains, what would the rating be without trying to work it out?
Feel the rating, Brains.
Exactly.
No hard logic. Let's feel it. Yeah.
Tell me the auras that you're getting.
As it stands now, I genuinely do feel happy about getting 3 really good players in. So I would give it just because I'm trying to balance expectation. I would give it. I think that does actually come out around about right. I would kind of give it a 6, potentially going to a 7, depending on how Johnson does. Like, you can't say that you're not unbelievably happy that we currently have an incredible centre back pairing. Is that not amazing? Right?
It's brilliant.
So you can't say. We've finally replaced Eriksen as the 10. You can't say you're not happy about that. That's why I mean that those signings are 9s or even 10s. You know what I mean? Because like, we have been dying for those signings, and we got them in this window. So in time, I think at the end of the season, say Maddison comes up with like 15, 20 goal involvements, we're not going to be doubting how good this window was, even just for getting him in. Look at VDV so far. Look how many tackles he puts in. He is levels above everyone else that we've got on the bench as a defender. And he's probably a little bit better than Romero, although Romero started the season really well as well. So I think I'm super, super happy that some of the players that we have brought in, including Johnson, because by the way, I think Kulu just goes on the left. Johnson goes on the right and Son through the centre. And I'm thinking that is absolute fire, because you have pace on the right, which we've always kind of struggled with. And then you have a technical, really clever left-footed player who can now go to the line. So I think you've got goals all day then if Son just plays as the 9. Richie's gone. He's like absolutely gone. I don't want to see Richie again. Even scoring the goal.
He just scored.
Yeah, but it's like he scored with a player running off to the dressing room and find another pair of boots.
All right, so he's got to rip some more boots. That's all.
That's all he's got to do. We just have to rely on that very regular occurrence that football players run off the pitch to get another boot, and then Richie will score every week. We just make sure that happens. Like, can someone
Exactly.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah, he should just keep like a pair of scissors in his boot or something and a little quick snip on occasion. There you go. He's going to get 20 goals a season.
I swear, Spurs in the transfer window, just to keep the the metaphors going, Spurs in the transfer window is like you're dating this super hot chick that's just way too good for you. It's absolutely so incredibly hot. And then you come down to like get into bed with her, and you've spunked within a second, and she's looking at you like you're an alien. Next thing you know, it comes to the final deadline day of your birthday, and then she's cheating on you with your brother. That's what's being Spurs in the
Oh my, yeah, something you never expect.
Thought I'd try and lift the mood anyway. Watching that guy Josh earlier, just Johnson's bail, and then go to Jory going, the whole world's ending.
That pretty much just encapsulates the Spurs fan base in a nutshell, pretty much. But look, we do have a big game to talk about tomorrow. What's your score prediction?
4-0 Burnley. Just kidding.
Couldn't even say it with a straight face.
I think it will be a tough game because they are dying for a result and they really badly need it. So you have to still have confidence in that 11, right? Like that 11 should be watching that game at Fulham. They should be dying to go again. So I'm praying that we get away a win. I'd take anything. I'd take a 1-0. Honestly, I would take a 1-0 deflecting off 4 players going in. You know, I'd take a 1-0 win. I think it probably be a little bit more, and I do think we'll concede. But I'm going to stick with a very icky, tough 2-1 win.
2-1 win.
Brains.
Even saying that, I'm like, I think we actually might draw. But I'm going to go for 2-1.
Big up, Brains. Thanks for coming on today, my friend. And we'll speak to you next time.
Nice one, lads. My little spunk monkeys. I'll see y'all later.
Oh, big up, Brains.
Well, we got a confirmed deal.
Yeah, Japhet Tanganga has been announced as a new Augsburg player. So that's been done. And there's also been an update from Paul O'Keefe regarding Hojbjerg, pretty much echoing what Jason Burt was saying, that Tottenham want Hojbjerg to leave, but also want an obligation. Atletico want a loan, and so far their offer is not meeting Spurs' expectation, but it is a moving situation and negotiations are ongoing. So
let's just hope there's a solution.
Yeah, we're at 4:00 today, so still a long way to go until the 11 p.m. deadline. Let's hope we can get some more deals through the line up until then. Let's move on to our next guest, which is KPV.
Hello.
Hello, KPV.
Hello.
Hello.
Fuck's sake. What are you on about now, huh? It's deadline day, man. Get over it, man. What, you're not watching?
Oh, we're watching. Don't you
Where's
worry
your yellow
about
tie,
it,
KPV? You said you were going to come in a late yellow tie.
I told you I don't have one, for fuck's sake, man. You know I don't have one. Jeez, I'm not Jim White, you know.
You said you were going to go get one.
No, I didn't. I didn't say that. God's sake. What are you? The cat's mother?
What are you, Ben? Come on.
I'm the cat's mother.
Kyle,
yeah?
Talk to me about Brennan Johnson. You buzzing?
Yeah, I'm buzzing, but I don't know what Danny was saying about him. That's a bit aggressive. That's a bit disrespectful. Danny, what are you on about, man? Like, is this because we ain't got Tab Sobering? Is that why he thinks he's average? Like, he ain't average. Like, name our academy graduates who are average. None of them. Like, I disagree what he said about Skip beforehand. He ain't average. Skip isn't. None of them are. The only one average is Dyer. So get Dyer out. And I hear we want Gallagher. I wouldn't mind him, but Sammy doesn't want him going. Well, you're too late for that now, Sammy. I know you can hear in the background, you bastard.
So you think Gallagher would be a good signing, Carl?
Yeah, but he ain't better than Hojbjerg, though, is he? Like, that's for sure.
You think Hojbjerg's better than him?
Yeah, like, where was Gallagher, he was on loan at West Brom a couple of seasons ago, and then Palace a season later. So he's been on loan 2 times. So Hojbjerg is better than Gallagher, that's for sure. We bought him from Southampton in exchange for KWP, known as Carl Walker-Peters. Like, yeah, I think he's better than Gallagher still, but he wants to Atletico Madrid, and we want him to leave. Ellie's not going to be happy about that. She is a big fan of Hojbjerg, and she's going to be upset if he goes, because I've got one of the Spurs shirts with his name on. It's the 2021 season shirt, the yellow one. Yeah.
You got a name on the back of your shirt, curse, Kyle. Never get the name on the back of your shirt. They always leave. Who do you reckon's coming in before the end of the window, if you're going to make a prediction?
Who would I say is coming in? Like, obviously I know Brennan is, Johnson, but I wouldn't mind SA from Palace. I hear we've made an inquiry. I know Ben would like him at Spurs. I would like SA because he can score goals and assists, not just goals. He can provide assists and maybe score a free kick or something. Like, I'd say SA would be coming in, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, but and on the I was gonna on this day in 2010 we signed Rafael van der Vaart. Yeah.
Oh, that means it's going to be a late twist, isn't there, Kyle? It's going to be a late deal. Kyle, look, we've got Burnley tomorrow. We've got Burnley tomorrow, Kyle. What's your prediction for the game?
Like I said last season, I'm done giving up predictions like Gary Lineker did before, so I'm done giving up predictions, but I'll say it. I want another clean sheet in the Prem. Seriously, Sammy, is that you in the background, you bastard? And you're still shit. Chelsea are shit, mate, so you ain't winning anything. Get used to it. You're still going to lose to us when Poch returns to the Champagne Lane, in words of fuck's sake! You watch me, man.
Remember who holds the power, Kyle. Remember who holds the power.
He doesn't, because you got a Chelsea fan in there. Like, this is Tottenham only, not Chelsea, and you're working with a Chelsea fan. Get him out the studio.
KPV, we won't tell the viewers what shirt you were wearing only a few months ago.
Shut up, Ben. Shut up, man. You're still not in charge, okay? I'm in charge, and I'll decide. So, quit playing around.
Give us a score, Carl. Come on.
Well, 3-0.
3-0.
3-0, man, because we've loved winning there, and yeah, they haven't scored a goal yet in the Prem, so they haven't even won yet. They haven't won a game. They're still bottom of the league. So Vincent Kompany is getting slapped on tomorrow. Then bring on Sheffield United, and if we can win these two, then I reckon we can get a result at the Emirates, because those lot have been playing badly recently. So bring on the North London derby a couple of days after my birthday, so it's on the 24th, so I'll be in the pub watching the game. But these two games are important, and I see Bayern Munich they've got Man United, and Harry Kane will return to England with Bayern. So Bayern Munich, please knock United out, because no one likes Man United. I can't stand them, so good luck, Harry. See you soon, mate. But I'm out, people, because I'm going out for dinner. So I'll see you all this weekend. Tomorrow. Later, boys. Over now. And as always, Levy out. Daigle in. Tada. La Bosch.
La Bosch.
Oh, that was KPV, the whirlwind that is KPV.
La Bosch, never heard that one. We've got another confirmed deal. United have announced the loan signing of Sergio Reguilon on a season-long loan, which obviously has, well, they didn't announce a break clause, but we know has a break clause in January. He went on to say, Reguilon, that in life you have to be ready for everything, and the chance to represent this great club with such an illustrious history is one that I could not turn down. Having spoken to the manager, I know what he needs from me, and I'm ready to play my part in helping the team to achieve success. I know that I can contribute to Man United this season, and I'm ready to fight for this group and show everyone my qualities. So Reguilon has announced, so Man United have announced the loan signing of Sergio Reguilon.
And there's also been a bit of a twist in the tail in the Hojbjerg situation as well, as Jason Burt from the Telegraph says, as things stand, Hojbjerg will reject a loan move from Tottenham to Atletico Madrid.
Bizarre.
So Hojbjerg seems to be digging his heels in at the moment.
Maybe because maybe he himself wants the obligate. I don't know. That's bizarre. But we heard as well that he rejected that he failed to agree personal terms after a deal was agreed, which is also bizarre.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a sticking point of him not wanting to go to Atletico. I mean, I find it hard to believe he wouldn't want to go there, but it does seem.
Where does he want to go? I don't
know. Doesn't want to go Fulham. Doesn't want to go Atletico. Well, where do you want to go, Pierre? Where do you want to go? This is madness. We've got
talk about Atletico, yeah. You know, Atletico are like the best performing team in La Liga, or like in 2023 or something. Like they're a good side. They just spunk some team 7-0.
Maybe he saw themselves. João Felix is like, nah, no chance. I ain't going there. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
There is no better club than Atletico that Hojbjerg is going to get.
No chance. Oh, he's done well to get Atletico. He's like, it'll be a good move for him. Like, I don't know why he would reject them.
Yeah, very strange. All right, so I think we'll call it there. There is, if any more news breaks, you know we'll be here first on the news. We're going to be in the studio here right up until the deadline tonight. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be back very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs.